me temper you too, king. I'm a two, but I ain't gonna chip I came from. Tell me they said easy rounds.
Hey, everyone. Welcome to the show.
Alberta, where the Rockies rise. Tommy temper streaming, lighting up the skies from the
Bringing you a special presentation.
He's dropping truth bombs, giving all these guys
A special presentation here today. We're going to talk a little bit about Alberta independence, which is like on the top of all Canadians' minds these days. Before, everyone was worried about Quebec's separation, and now everyone is worried about Alberta separation, and the Liberals are going berserk. Oh, wow. They don't want Alberta to separate. Hey, everyone in the chat, good to see you. I won't be able to address the chat here today, but we'll just show you the show, and you can kind of watch along, and hopefully we'll learn something here today. We'll learn what is happening from the independent side in Alberta, and we'll also hear what the thoughts are of those that are more liberal living in Canada. And you'd be surprised at what people say and what people think. And some of what I heard is not that great, you know, especially from the side that don't want Alberta to separate. It's like the name calling, the accusations, like it's getting a little bit out of hand. Meanwhile, if the people in a democracy vote to do something, then it should happen. And you shouldn't have somebody else going, oh, no, you're not going to do that. You know, if you're in a bad relationship and you want to get a divorce, what? Are you going to have the government step in and go, no, you two are fighting like crazy, you're not getting along, but you know what? You'll have to live together forever. No, that's not what would happen in a marriage, and that's not what was going to happen here with Canada and Alberta. We're in a kind of a situation here. We're at a crossroad here. All through my whole life, all I've heard from everybody around me, you know, especially those that were born in Canada, is that Alberta is getting a raw deal from the rest of Canada. And it is absolutely come to a height here right now where we're filling out, getting signatures for plebiscites all over the place. And Alberta, just to give you a little bit of a indication, there's about 5 million people living in Alberta here now. Now, I remember when I was a kid, there was about 21 million people in all of Canada. I think now, I don't know what the exact amount is. Maybe the chat can say. But, you know, if it was 21 million a while ago, it's got to be about 40 million now living in Canada. But don't quote me on that. But anyways, this is a pretty good, this was a thing put on by the Critical Compass and Rachel Parker, and it was restreamed by Martyupnorth, and it's got pretty much a debate between Troy Westwood, who is I think a football player out of where is it now? Winnipeg. And you've got Martyupnorth, which I believe he lives in Calgary. So Marty is pro-separation, or independence, as I like to call it. You know, in my mind, the term separation is like, you know, the haters say, oh, those dirty separatists, or those, despicable separatists, whatever. You know, and separatist is like a more demeaning kind of a term that is used for the people that want independence. Right? I'm seeking independence. Marty's seeking independence. Now, some people just plain use the term separation, but you'll never hear the haters say, oh, I don't like Alberta independence. No, they always use the word separatist. You're just a separatist. And that term became popular when in the days gone by, and they had two votes on it in Quebec when they wanted separation, you know. And everyone is saying, no, Canada didn't want Quebec to separate. That's not what I heard. What I heard was like, hey, if you guys want to separate, when those votes were going on, everyone that I talked to out west here was like, good riddance. You know, if you guys in Quebec want to separate, go right ahead. Do what you want to do. If you get the vote, do it. You know, it wasn't like we were like, please stay in Canada. No, it wasn't like that at all. but yet some people say that and think that, but I don't think that's what it was. Over in Quebec, they were like, a lot of my friends actually that I met here in Edmonton moved out of Quebec because they were wanting to only speak French there. They wanted all French on all the labels, French on all of the businesses, even to the point that they walked into businesses and they looked at the breakers right in the back room in the business, and it had to have French labels on those little breakers, like those language police. I don't know if you remember that, but there was language police and all kind of stuff going on in Quebec. And they weren't really embracing English in English Canada at all in Quebec. So for that reason, it was like, it was my chin and my neck are right here. Don't worry about it. I can lose weight, but you're blank, and that'll never change. So don't comment on me. As a matter of fact, that CH person in the chat there, hang on a second. Before I start the performance here, let me get my live going here and go into my chat and give that guy a timeout because he's being very disrespectful to the chat here. So that's not cool. And if you disrespect me in the chat, pretty much expect to get booted, okay? How about that? Let's see, you're not on the horizontal. You must be watching over on the vertical. By the way, I'm streaming in two different formats here. One is horizontal and one is vertical. And just let me go look over on the vertical there, because I don't know if we even have a mod over there in the vertical. But okay, here we go. Bringing the chat up. There's CH in there. Okay, we'll give you a time. I'm not going to add you as a moderator. I'm not going to remove you from the channel, but I'm going to put you in a timeout here, okay? And it'll be about 30-minute timeout, okay? So good on you, CH, for disrespecting me and asking where does my neck start. Hey, I'm on a bit of a diet right now. I just had a salad for supper here. So, I can lose weight, but, the rest of you, yeah, get on your podcast there, but don't turn your camera on there, whatever you do. Okay. Anyways, thanks a lot for joining us on Facebook and on YouTube and on X. We're streaming on all three platforms, and good to see everyone. And now this replay that I'm going to be playing here, and I'm going to be commenting on it too as it goes on. I'm going to be playing it at 1.25 speed. Just double check on that here. Yeah, 1.25. So it will sound a little bit faster than it normally is, but that way we don't have to sit here for the whole hour or whatever it is. So anyways, that's the deal. I'm a pro-separatist. Now, and the other thing is that the people that are pro-independence, now I'm saying it, but which is okay. Oh, hang on. Let me turn on one other thing here. I have to go in the back end. YouTube is kind of anal here I just went live here and I didn't set anything up. So I have to refresh this, go in and turn a couple of switches on in the background here so that everything runs smoothly here through the whole thing. Let's see, just let me click that, click this, turn that on, click done, click that, click this, and save that, and go back and click that. Sorry about this, but it's a YouTube thing where you have to turn on a bunch of switches here after you go live in order to get all the stuff going here. Okay, there we go. And save that. I think I've got it all. Okay, good. It looks like it's saved. Okay, let's start the show. So this is the setup here. We've got the panel here. The two guys on the top. You've got Troy Westwood. He's the football player from Winnipeg. And you've got Martyupnorth. And he's a podcaster. And also he's pretty big on X. X is where he grew on criticizing the Canadian government. And also he's a pro independents, Albertan. He's even one of the guys that goes out there and collects signatures, that sort of thing. And let's just listen to the show. I'll stop the show and interject a little bit here as it goes on, so that I can give my opinion here as the whole thing is going. So anyways, here we go. Stand by.
Good. Yeah, we're doing good here. We pushed it live, so it's good to have you on. We appreciate you accommodating some time to explore these ideas. So,
my pleasure.
Great. So, Marty, you look good. James, you look good. Troy, you look good. All right, is everyone ready to begin, or does anyone have any last-minute questions they want to go over?
I'm good.
Okay.
And it's as you can see, well, maybe you can't, but that's Rachel right beside me, Rachel Parker. She's a pretty big podcaster. And you've got James in there with the critical compass on the bottom right. Okay, thanks a lot for that, YouTube. Danny Wayne. Hey, Danny Wayne, thanks for that super chat there.
Excellent. Well,
Got my shirt on.
come representing.
great. Well, it's 7:03, so we'll get started then. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for this live debate between Troy Westwood and Martyupnorth. You might have seen some of their content online. My name is Rachel Parker. I'm the host of Rachel Parker on YouTube, a well-known independent journalist in the Canada and Alberta independent media ecosystem. And my co-host today is James from the Critical Compass. So yeah, we're going to have a great debate here. James, why don't you start off by introducing our opponents?
Yeah, I'll give a little introduction. So we've got Marty Belanger, aka Martyupnorth. He's the unacceptable fact checker. He's a vocal voice on X where he fiercely critiques current events, Canadian federal politics, energy politics, and institutional failures. He's a staunch Alberta separatist. He challenges anti-independence narratives and debates unionists while exposing perceived lies and biases in the media and the government with a no-nonsense stuff.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I'm doing this vertical. I have two feeds running. One is horizontal and one vertical. So what you want to do is you want to come over to the horizontal feed. Okay, come to the horizontal feed, and you want to watch over here because then you can see the whole panel. The vertical feed, yeah, is cutting off a couple of the people there. And just by the way I have it here, I'd have to make it super small and move it over different. So if you're watching on the vertical feed, just come over to the horizontal feed. In fact, well, I can't drop the link, but the way to get there is go up on top of the vertical feed, click on my name, Tommy Temper, go to then select live, and you'll see there's two lives running, one horizontal, one vertical, and you'll be able to see the whole panel on the horizontal. Okay, thanks a lot for that.
Style, he pushes for Alberta sovereignty, smaller government, and a return to common sense governance, often sparking heated discussions. And then we've got Troy Westwood. He's a husband, he's a dad, 25 years in social services, working across frontline support, program development, and community advocacy. 18-year member of the Winnipeg Blue Bombers.
Great. And James, I just want to make sure that it's streaming live onto at least your YouTube.
Yeah, we've got my Critical Compass YouTube is live. And how about yours on your end?
It says that it is still waiting on my end.
Interesting. What about, let's just do a quick double check with, is it streaming to are your broadcasts going on X?
Are you asking me or are you asking Rachel?
Yes.
Yeah. Yours
I'm
is
live
going
on
there.
X. Yeah.
If your YouTube didn't connect correctly, I'll send you the files. So.
Yeah,
No
I'm
worries.
live on X as well, so it's all good.
I think we've
perfect.
got enough across enough platforms that people will be able to figure it out. I just want to make sure no one misses out. Okay, so we did come up with a little structure just to keep things focused for today. There's going to be 6 segments. Each of you will basically get to host 3 or begin 3. So each segment will start with a question. The respondent will have 3 minutes to answer that question. Their opponent will then have 2 minutes to respond. And then we'll just allow for 5 minutes of open debate before moving on to a new segment. And we're going to cap it at an hour. James and we're not going to interrupt. With the exception that if there is a definition or a term that's being used and it's clear that you guys each have
I'm going to
different
try and
interpretations of
move
what that term
everything
might
here
mean,
so that
we
we're all
might step in and just ask
in
for
that
clarity,
vertical.
just for the overall
So
sake of the discussion
watch for
and clarity
stuff
there.
to move here.
All right, well, if that sounds good to you, gentlemen, we'll begin. So our first topic is culture. And Marty, the first question will go to you. You will have, again, 3 minutes to answer. So Marty, what is Alberta's culture and why is it incompatible with Canada?
Actually, that's a good question. I don't think that Alberta's culture specifically is different than, say, other provinces. I mean, it's slightly different. You know, it's different than, say, Quebec's culture. It's different than Newfoundland's culture, perhaps different than Ontario. But that's not the point here. The point is, when we talk about separation, is that whatever our culture happens to be, it's not that it's right or wrong, is that we just want to protect our culture. So a lot of Albertans in the last several years have a real concern about Ottawa's out of control immigration, because immigration is not a provincial matter, it's a federal matter, and Ottawa has basically opened the floodgates and allowed like millions of immigrants into the country, and they land in Toronto, Montreal, places like that, but a lot of them end up in Alberta. And so just in the last year alone, last couple of years, we've added like 400,000 immigrants to Alberta, which for a province of a population of only like 4 million, we've added like 4%. We grew, and it's out of control and is damaging. So it's an example. It's not the main reason why there's a separatist movement, but it is one of them. And it's not about the fact that our culture is fundamentally different than other parts of Canada, but we've decided that we want to protect our culture. If the rest of Canada wants to let in a whole bunch of immigrants and be replaced, that's fine. That's their choice. But Albertans have decided that no, we want to protect our culture.
You still have a
Did I
little
use
time.
enough of my 2 minutes? I mean, I'll just add, right? You know, I'm not against immigration, and most Albertans are not against immigration, because like fundamentally, we're a late province to Confederation, and we were a territory for the longest time. And most people, like, we are the product of a mass immigration in the late 1800s, early 1900s. So there's a lot of people who came here to help build this province, and so we're not against immigration. Most of us can trace back our families to some form of immigration, but we're definitely not in favor of the out of control immigration that's going on. And I also,
yeah, exactly. Now, I agree with Marty up here, the guy that's talking right now, because I've listened to a little bit of this, not the whole thing, but pretty much everything that he says is exactly the way I feel, because he grew up in Alberta. I grew up in Alberta. He has the same feelings towards Canada as I do, which it's okay living in Canada, don't get me wrong, but we are sending so much money out of our paychecks, every paycheck, and the province is sending so much money out of this province that it is making it so that people don't even want to have children anymore, honestly, because it is so expensive to have children. The food prices are so high. The housing prices are so high. It's like the fuel prices are so high. You're getting carbon taxed, everything. And on top of that, you're bringing in so many immigrants. There's like mass immigration where when you go into a store or something like that, man, it feels like I'm not even in Canada anymore. It feels like we're being replaced by other people coming in from other places. And probably 25% of the people now living in Canada weren't even born in Canada. That is how many people the Liberal government has brought into the country. And you might ask yourself, well, why are they doing that? They're all going to vote Liberal because the Liberals are bringing them in. So imagine that. 25% of the population is probably going to vote Liberal. That's a ton of new voters coming in here that are going to keep the Liberals in party. That's why they're doing what they're doing. The Liberals are not stupid. That's what the whole thing is all about. And it's the globalist guys like Carney and Trudeau that are just going with that plan to just displace real Canadians with people that you don't even recognize anymore. It's just not the same.
I want to add this. Right now, 25% of the people living in this country were not born in Canada. Like, that's a big number. Like, it's only been that high once in our history. So right now, it's beyond just healthy immigration. Some of us I feel that we're being replaced.
Okay.
True.
Thank you for that, Marty. Troy, you will now
Absolutely.
have 2 minutes to respond.
Now, I would like to respond by asking questions if I can do that. And I'll just touch quickly on culture of Canada, which I absolutely love. And especially when you regionalize it the way Marty did a little bit there. But like you think of and for me as a prairie boy, born and raised here,
And,
fairly boring.
This
with
is
the culture
Marty
of the
in the
prairies,
blue.
Saskatchewan, Manitoba, the same thing, same kind of people. Drive forever on that flat, the most boring drive there is in the world, Manitoba, Saskatchewan. But BC, just the kind of the West Coast vibe sort of thing, the laid back. You think about surfing out in the island, or it's just different, right? You go to Vancouver or anywhere in BC, and it's different. It's got a different vibe to it. And then Alberta, my folks lived in Alberta and spent
and the people out east go, oh, you in Alberta, you don't even have a culture. There's no, they're so stick in the mud, so nose in the air, like, oh, we're better than you and we have culture, but out west you guys don't even have a culture out there. So what the hell do you care about anything? Just stay there, do what you're doing, but keep sending us the money, okay? Send the money out east. We need it.
I've spent a bunch of time there, and it's always been sort of the cowboy province, and it's definitely a different vibe out in Alberta, which a lot of Canadians love. And then, like I was saying, with Manitoba and Saskatchewan, and then
We're
you get into
rednecks
Ontario,
out here,
which is a whole bunch
proud.
like Manitoba in the early stages. But as you move east, then all of a sudden you find you're in the middle of the universe in Toronto, right? That a lot of Canadians kind of have fun with and that sort of thing. And then, of course, Quebec is like you're in a different country. Anytime you go to Quebec, it's remarkably culture rich, and there's something incredibly beautiful about it. And then you get out a little bit east of that, and you have all of our brothers and sisters on the East Coast there. That's holy cow, do they have their own sort of thing going up there, and some of the folks you can hardly understand, and all the different things that come into play. And man, that's what to me makes us so rich, is that beautiful culture that we have across this remarkable spectrum of space and area and land and stuff. And that's one of my favorite parts of being Canadian, is just the wealth that we have of culture as far as being
10
Canadian
seconds, morning, Troy.
and born here and stuff. So I would just lean into, and I get the immigration concern. Like it can be a little
Okay,
bit
that is
overwhelming
a
and strange.
2
at
minute.
times.
That's a 2 minute mark. So now we'll head into 5 minutes of open debate.
And I would like to begin that just by asking Marty, like, why is there so much immigration? It's economically based, right? Do you believe that?
No, I believe that
No, there's so much immigration because the Liberal Party wants to make sure that they've brought in so many people that are going to vote for them. It's voting. It's new voters that are going to vote Liberal. It's like that. It's like I ran into a guy from China, okay, that came in here when Pierre Elliott Trudeau was in power, the Liberal, right? That far back in probably the 70s or something like that. And he still, to this day, votes Liberal. You know, why? I said, why? Why do you vote Liberal? He lives in Alberta, too. And he said, well, because when I immigrated, Liberal Trudeau was in power. And that's why I'm going to keep voting Liberal, because if it wasn't for him, I wouldn't be in Canada. Like, come on. And that's why they're doing it. That's the number one reason that the Liberals are doing that, bringing in so many immigrants. And there's also a push from the WEF, from the globalists, the powers up on top, to push immigrants into a lot of countries, not just Canada. Just look what's happening to the UK, to Sweden, to Italy, to all of the European countries. They're all being flooded with immigrants. Why? For what reason? Why can't those people live in their own countries? There's nothing wrong with India, for example. Why are we bringing so many East Indians into Canada? Why? Is something wrong with them not being able to live in East India? No, they could live there perfectly well. It's a government plot. It's a plot of the Liberals to just bring in mass immigration and just plain get rid of the real Canadians that are here, to just blanket us with so many other people. Now, you're going to say, you're racist. And Trudeau did say that. You said, if you're going to talk about immigration, you're just a racist. So for the longest time, people just shut up and they didn't even talk about all these immigrants coming in here. But now it has come to an end to where everyone is like rebelling and saying, look at what's happening over in the UK. They're rebelling over there. They're having parades and riots and, well, not riots, but, protests and stuff like that against all of the mass immigration over there. And at some point, it's going to hit that point here. And in fact, it has hit that point, to the point that Alberta wants to leave Canada and not have anything to do with all the nonsense that's going on there.
Canada has become an extremely unproductive country and lazy in a sense, and our GDP is failing. And so the Liberals have allowed a ton of people into the country so that it artificially inflates the GDP number. And they love a high GDP number because they're borrowing money recklessly, and they're constantly, and so they've convinced us that we have an acceptable amount of debt by saying that our debt to GDP ratio is adequate. So they're fighting.
Yeah. That's how they're making us a better country, by bringing in more immigrants, which of course a lot of the immigrants are not working. We have to pay for those immigrants that come in here. We have to pay for their health care, have to pay for their food, have to pay for their lodging. We have to pay literally thousands of dollars a month for every immigrant that comes into Canada. Meanwhile, you've got people on AISH that are only making like $1,400 a month. You've got seniors that are on old age pension that are only making like $1,100 a month. And meanwhile, you're bringing in people like crazy, and you're burdening all the taxpayers, and you're burdening the healthcare system.
Numbers. So we're allowing a whole bunch of immigrants into the country, which is basically slave labor as far as I'm concerned. Walk into any Tim Hortons and you'll see it. And I think it's not for healthy reasons. We're letting in a whole bunch of people because we are destroying our economy, and this is a band-aid solution. And there's another problem too, which is Canadians are not, the fertility rate of Canadians is way low, except here in Alberta. We still have a high fertility rate. And so the rest of
you want to know why? Because it's so expensive to have a kid. Nobody can afford to raise a kid in Canada. So instead of us having children and having a low cost of living, and you know why the cost of living is so expensive and the inflation rate is because the government is spending billions and billions and billions. Like whenever Carney shows up, it's like, oh, we're going to spend another $2 billion on this. And then he does something else. And it's, oh, we got to spend another $2 billion on this and $2 billion on that. And it's a billion here and a billion there and a billion there. And we don't have any money. We have no money. Where's he getting these billions from? He's going to have to borrow it. And who's going to have to pay back that money? Your children. Oh, actually, the children that you won't have. Better bring in more immigrants and send them to work and tax them so they can pay off our debt. What kind of a stupid system is that?
the country is not having babies because policies are so terrible that nobody can afford to have babies. And then we can't keep paying for these social services that we lavish on each other. So then we have to have this out of control immigration. So I think out of control immigration is the result of other bad policies.
But I do take offense to, and I've seen your posting before about, you know, the racial plays you make on the Tim Hortons and stuff like that. And when I first saw some of the complaints about it, I was giggling to myself because I thought, oh, these rural folks in Alberta are freaking out because they're going to their local Tims and it's got Indian ownership. Those folks own Tims. Marty, those folks that are coming in.
Yeah. They're actually coming in and they're buying up everything. They're buying up the apartment buildings. They're buying up the gas stations. They're buying up the Tim Hortons. They're starting tons of East Indian restaurants on the go. There's even a East Indian radio station here that plays just that kind of music here in Edmonton. It's, they're definitely moving in. Yeah, absolutely.
Like the number of Indian business owners that in Canada is quite remarkable and beautiful. And
it's remarkable because you're bringing in so many East Indians.
Especially for white folks, the concern about the immigration when sometimes you can be a minority living in a large city in Winnipeg and your culture or your whiteness is a minority, but there's also something truly beautiful to it. And I do profoundly disagree. The one thing I'll agree with you.
What the hell is beautiful about it? It's like I feel like I'm being displaced. It's not beautiful. Like this guy here is the epitome of the liberals out there, is that they all think like him, which is like, you're not thinking guy at all, you know, and it's not just that, but you're bringing in other people here that have their own interests. And you know, pretty soon we're going to be faced with pockets of Sharia law and all kinds of stuff like that in here. And it's not, I'm just saying East Indians because they're talking about it, but there's more than just East Indians that they're bringing into Canada. And, you know, we're slowly getting taken over, the same as the UK.
1,000% is when some a-holes are out in Toronto protesting and some folks start saying death to Canada and all that sort of stuff. Those folks should be immediately taken either to jail or sent back home. Like that, we need to be more careful in vetting who we bring into the country for sure to make sure
that's funny to see a liberal talking about not liking the Palestinian protest. Oh my God. But yet those are the immigrants that are being brought in. What? You don't like them?
They're not fanatical and they fall in line from that sort of standpoint. There, I would really like things to be changed. But I think there's a lot of beauty in the folks that come here. And we live in a place there's so many different cultures here and I've grown up playing soccer my whole life.
Hey, and good point there, Becky. And they come here, they work, and what do they do with their money? They don't reinvest it into the economy. They send it back to their home country, to their homeland, to where the rest of their family is. And now the government is saying, oh, you know what the Liberal government has just come up with now? It's like, if you come in and you're a student, now we have a program where you can invite your mother, your father, your grandmother, your grandfather, all of those people that don't work and are not going to be productive to the society. You can bring them all in, okay, and weight down more of our housing and weight down more of our healthcare system and everything else here. It's a plan to fail.
I coach soccer, so that inherently a lot of the globe play soccer. So around us, we have a large Indian population, a large Filipino population, and all kinds of other folks from different cultures. And I think it's a truly beautiful thing.
Marty, did you want to respond, or do you guys want to leave it there?
That's a matter of opinion there, Guy.
Yeah, I'll just, like I said, I'm not against people.
And unfortunately, opinions are like assholes. Everyone has one, but not all opinions are great or true.
Coming here to run businesses. I'm not against Indians that would come here and own a Tim Hortons. That's not my problem. My problem is the fact that there's just so many of them. I mean, Tim Hortons used to be a place where you would go.
Yeah, that's just it. I'm not against immigration. Nobody's against immigration, but mass immigration to where it's just everywhere you look, it's like, man, this is not where I grew up. This is not Canada anymore. That is what the Liberal government has done to Canada all over the place. You know, there's a place called Brampton where it is like almost all East Indians in that whole town. You know, they just have flooded, where do they go? A place like Brampton. It's like all over the whole city. You hardly even see anyone else other than an East Indian guy there. Unbelievable.
Where kids would work and retirees, and now it's slave labor from imported from other countries.
It's not slave labor though, brother. They're getting minimum wage or whatever they're making, same as anybody else. And
you know what they're getting? The reason that all of these, they call them temporary foreign workers that end up from temporary becoming citizens, right? What it is the government has a program that your Tim Hortons and other companies can bring in these so-called temporary workers, and the business only has to pay half of their wage, and the government pays the other half of the wage. Well, guess who the government is? Me and you. You're the one paying for these foreign workers coming in here. It's coming out of your tax dollars instead of it going towards healthcare or building new schools or building hospitals or building things for Canada. It's going to half of the wages of all of these foreign workers that they're bringing in here. Unbelievable. Stupidity.
And different folks that are helping.
And on top of that, your children, the kids at school can't get a summer job because there are no jobs. They're all taken up by these temporary foreign workers that they're bringing in. It's crazy.
And that sort of a thing. Like, I know, like, it's a pretty hardcore, edgy sort of take that you have, Marty. And when you say you don't have a problem with it, but when you post some of the stuff that you do, it sure looks like you do. Like, it comes off very.
Yeah. And then you say stuff about what's going on, and then people are going to call you racist, bigot. They don't like what you're posting, and you're a bad guy, and you come off as this, that, or the other thing. Oh, it's because you don't like what's going on, and you can't talk about what's going on. Otherwise, you get labeled. And that's what the lefties like to do, is to label you.
Hateful, spiteful, hard, angry. See? And like, you just don't like when you go up to your Tims, and if you're, being served by someone who's Indian.
And it has nothing to do with, it could be a guy from Biafra, okay? It's just that you're picking on the East Indians because they're like all over the place. They brought in so many of them. Like, what else can you say? You're not picking on the individual person. You're picking on the government policy. You don't like the government policy for what's going on.
I don't like being replaced, Roy. I'm proud of my culture, and I want to preserve my culture. You keep talking about beautiful cultures.
I don't like to be replaced,
but at the
either.
same time, my culture is being replaced and destroyed. So where's your sympathy for my culture? You keep talking about beautiful cultures. Everybody else has a beautiful culture except the Alberta culture. So you have no sympathy for my culture, but you have sympathy for the Filipinos that are coming here and installing a restaurant. Like, do you see the hypocrisy in what you're saying? Where's your sympathy for my culture or yours?
Well, your culture,
like you have what I would call a suicidal empathy. Like, you're being replaced and you're cool with it, but I'm not cool with being replaced. So, I mean, we'll agree to disagree and we'll move on to another topic.
I would say that we're not being, I do not feel as a white dude that I'm being replaced. I do feel that we are being enhanced.
We are absolutely being replaced. Go over to, I took a trip to the Costco store the other day in Edmonton, and I did a little head count. As I was moving my shopping cart around, I counted. And you know what? I counted 9 people, little groups of people, because around their shopping cart, okay, little families, and that were not even speaking English, okay? 9 people not speaking English to 1 white family speaking English at the Costco store. And you tell me that we're not being replaced and that it's great. This whole thing is just great. They don't even speak English. They don't even want to speak English. And they move into little areas in the city, in cities where those that are like them live and just take over the whole area and displace everybody else.
From a cultural standpoint, and that's a part of the richness of Canada. That's my take on it.
Oh, it's rich. Okay.
All right. Well, let's move to our second question then. This one is for you, Troy. Do you think Albertans have a right to pursue self-determination through a citizen-led petition and a referendum following the guidelines of the Supreme Court?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Anybody anywhere in any enclave has the right, especially in something that we call a democracy, to be able to vote to separate or become independent, from an area. There's no doubt about that. And it is actually enshrined in our Constitution to be able to do that. And we have the Clarity Act as well, which also allows it. So, legally, sure, it's something that you can do. But, the liberals, it's like, oh, no, you can't do that. And you're a bad guy. You're a separatist. You're a traitor to the country if you do something like that. Oh, so being somebody that believes in democracy is being a traitor? Give me a break.
I'll say F no. And if we're sitting in the living room together here, I'd swear openly, but no, hell no, they do not. I just don't. And I know that there is a pathway to it. And I know that especially when Marty and I were younger, I don't know if Rachel and James, you guys were born yet, sort of thing, but when Quebec tried to do it, I was way younger. I can't remember what year it was exactly, but it was a huge ordeal. And it bothered me a little bit then in my youth, but now it would really bother me. I think it's something that should be taken away from the provinces and the territories, the opportunity, any slight sliver in practice.
Oh, you're saying that it should be taken away for us to have the ability to determine our own independence. Oh, that's really democratic. That sounds like you're like an autocratic, like a dictator, and you don't want anything to happen in your country. You just want to be able to rule over everyone with an iron fist. Sure, great.
Crack of it to leave Canada. I don't think that it should be an option. I don't think that any group of individuals should be able to come together that have some level of discontentment for whatever it is. Each of those individuals is free to leave the country. I do not think that they should be able to come together and as if they own the province. And
well, you know what? It's like POSs like you that is part of the reason that we're leaving the country.
Leave. And it's really hard, I think, for us as Canadians and for us as Canada to have a strong, stable nation when the threat is out there of a province leaving whenever there's a group of individuals that feel the want or need to leave and connect with it. So I think it's something that needs to be readdressed. I think the option to do it needs to be taken away. It's like that for a bunch of countries in Europe where states and provinces do not have the option to leave. We are a sovereign nation.
Yeah, but you know what? It's not like that in Canada. This is not Russia, my friend.
With our 10 provinces and 3 territories, and I think that it should stay like that, and it really bothers me in a huge way, and takes away from us overall as Canadians when there's this option that folks can be upset, discontent, angry, spiteful, all those sorts of things, and rip a province away from the country, or attempt to.
Okay, Marty, we'll go to you for 2 minutes for a response.
Yeah, I mean, we fundamentally disagree on that one. I treat it as nobody, like Troy's never asked me personally, like, because he knows I'm a separatist. He's never asked me, like, why are you wanting to separate? Nobody asked that. And I've given you the example. If you have a relationship between a man and a woman, or whatever kind of relationship or business, people come together and suddenly it doesn't work out. Then they should be allowed to separate. So we came together as a country under Confederation. Provinces joined with the promise that there would be economic advantages and defense advantages and other advantages. And one of the partners in this relationship right now, Canada, Alberta, in the past, Quebec, is completely unhappy. So in your analogy, you would reverse divorce laws. You would say to a partner who was unhappy, stick it out. You're not allowed to get divorced. Yeah. So that's how I view it.
Like, what is that? What's that all about? That's not going to work out. If a relationship doesn't work out, you don't stick together. Okay. Eventually there becomes some kind of a rebellion and one of the parties takes out the other party. And why should it come to that? Why not say, you know what? We've tried, but you know what? You're just plain taking advantage of us, and we've had enough. We've had enough. We've talked. We had 2 convoys to Ottawa, one of them for oil and gas. I don't know if you guys know this. In 2019, I was on the convoy to Ottawa that was for pro oil and gas to get more of our resources out of the ground and to talk to Ottawa. And you know what? They snubbed us. They didn't even talk to us when we got to Ottawa. And then there was the time that the convoy for the lockdowns, where we went to Ottawa to talk to Trudeau and the Liberal government. What did they do? They called us a bunch of terrorists, and then they said, well, we're not going to negotiate with terrorists, you know. Well, is Ottawa talking to the people, or are they just snubbing everyone, you know, calling you a bunch of names, racist, terrorists, you know, whatever, every name in the book. And that's how we feel out here, is that all they do is name call to us. And even Carney, he doesn't want to take the oil out of the ground. What, are you kidding me? Comes up with some kind of a stupid MOU, which says that you got to have green oil and net zero and carbon credits and increase carbon taxes and all kind of bullshit like that. He's, you know, Carney is a globalist. He's not for Alberta. He's not even for Canada. He's for himself and his shares in Brookfield. He's enriching Brookfield with every little thing that he's trying to do. And we're sick and tired of this bullshit that's coming out of Ottawa. Like, really, Carney is like no better than Trudeau. In fact, he's worse than Trudeau.
And then for me, it's perfectly constitutional and perfectly valid. Like, why would you want to keep a partner in the relationship? Albertans are unhappy. They're not happy being in this relationship. So, I lived through the first referendum. I lived in Quebec for the first referendum in the 1980s. And then I wasn't there for the second one, but I was cheering them on. I'm like, hey, have at her. If you're not happy in this confederation, move on. So I can't make the emotional attachment and passing a law like that. To me, that would be a draconian law saying an unhappy partner can't leave. That's insane. So no, we're unhappy and we want to leave. I think the relationship comparison, like a marriage, is probably the best one we have.
We've had enough.
I think it's a horrible analogy to use. But nonetheless, and I find it interesting too, when you say completely unhappy.
Why is it a horrible analogy? It's a pretty good analogy. If you don't get along, go separate ways. Pretty simple. Why is that horrible?
Because it's probably somewhere around 30% right now that
it's actually, the latest poll that I saw is 41% want independence in Alberta right now. And we still have another, half a year before it even goes to a vote. And the numbers will just keep increasing day after day after day. 41%. But, you know, the Liberals like to downplay it and go, oh, it's only 30%. Oh, well, it's only 15% of the people in Alberta want independence. No, the latest poll is 41%, for God's sakes. Like, at least, you know, don't try and spin it. And likewise, all of the mainstream media is totally against Alberta independence because they're paid for. They get tax reductions and stuff like that from the federal government. So whatever the federal government says and the Liberals say, they're like, you know, right in there, sidestepping with them. So you can't trust the government or the media, because they're just pushing the narrative that, oh, you guys are a bunch of terrorists.
That's the estimation anyway, plus or minus whatever it might be, of Albertans would sign up for independence. So I think one thing, the separatists, that the notion of false consensus phenomenon, when they're around others that are always doing this, and maybe when you are out getting those signatures, Marty, like you're around individuals, especially in rural Alberta, that really are tuned into this, but it's still, by all accounts, somewhere around 30% or so. And when you need a clear majority, like, holy cow, whatever a clear majority, it's very interesting how some of the ambivalent type of language that's in the Clarity Act, like a clear majority, is that it's not 55% to me or 60. I don't know what it is, but it's some big number. And then there's all the things that need to happen for you guys to ultimately be able to carry forth your goal and what you want to do. But when you say completely unhappy, you're talking right now about a fairly small, disgruntled group of individuals that don't like seeing different shades of brown around them too much.
Sure. You know, do you see the way the Liberals characterize it? It's a fairly small group of disgruntled individuals. White supremacists, white national supremacists, you know, is another term that they'll use. It's just name calling. It's like, if you don't like it and you have no way out, you're going to start into the name calling.
Like they're being mistreated by Ottawa and such.
Well, so you wouldn't even let those individuals voice their discontent by holding a referendum. So I'm with you on this one. Let us hold that. We're collecting petitions. Smith gave us a beautiful piece of legislature called the Citizens Initiative, and we will hold a referendum. And I'll stand by it. If the referendum fails and doesn't get the majority, then I guess we'll have a mandate to try and renegotiate with Ottawa. But let us that's not your concern. Actually, your concern could be valid if you think that. Would you agree that if 60% of Albertans said we want to go in a referendum, would you respect that, or would you still say no?
Well, I don't know. I inherently, obviously, it would be way above my head too. I would not respect it for sure, because I just don't think that any group of individuals should be able to tear a province away from the country like that.
Okay, well, that's an interesting. Okay, you made your point clear, because I would say that, if 60% of Quebecers said they want to leave, I would say congratulations, you've voiced it's your democratic right, and away you go. And by the way, I think it's higher than 30%. And I also want to say this. Alberta was brought into Confederation basically kicking and screaming, almost annexed in 1905. And there's been a separatist movement in this province. Every generation has seen one. We had one as early as the 1930s. Like within a decade of joining Confederation, people started going, what's going on? There was another one in the 60s. The one in the 80s was huge when Pierre-Elliott Trudeau imposed the National Energy Program on us and destroyed us. And we just got...
Yeah. I remember that happening when Pierre-Elliott Trudeau, he actually came in and he... tried nationaling oil by buying up all of the oil companies' rights so that he could be like Cuba and have the country own the oil, right? And it decimated Alberta. It put us into a hell of a tailspin, a downward tailspin. Real estate prices dropped. Inflation went up like crazy. Real estate interest rates went up to 18% for like a first mortgage on a house. That was Trudeau's doing. He was so freaking stupid. That's the Liberals. And they're at it again with the business of the mass immigration and overspending. And we're sick and tired of the Liberal policies. They don't know what the hell they're doing. They are not economists at all.
Over that, and then Trudeau Jr. comes back along. We're about to forget about that one, and then the East elected Carney. So anyways, my point is, I disagree. I think well, you and I can disagree on this one. The courts say otherwise. The Clarity Act, the courts ruled on the Quebec referendum, and the Clarity Act says that if a properly worded question and a proper majority say yes, the province is allowed to leave Confederation. People who call us traitors are wrong.
Yeah, well, I do call, and especially individuals like Jeffrey Rath that you've mentioned, like when you're out meeting with what is now a foreign hostile nation to the south of us, for the first time in our lives, you can't say that when Donald Trump is threatening as a 51st state and whatever else, all of the
okay. Now we start with the Liberals' thought of bash Trump. Just bash Trump. Say negative thing. You know what? You don't bash your neighbor, your closest neighbor. You don't. You don't say negative things about them. You understand what they're doing, and you negotiate with them in good faith. But the last thing you do is bash, 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 and then expect to make some kind of a deal with them, And Trump is doing what he wants to do to make his country better, and you can't say anything negative about that. If it affects Canada negatively, so be it. That's the way it is. You can't change that. But as far as the independence movement going to the United States and talking to the United States about potentially securing a $500 billion line of credit for us to take us over becoming independent, what's wrong with that? Absolutely nothing wrong with that. Quebec went over to France and talked to them about doing the same thing. Nobody complained about that. But these guys are just picking every little detail. Oh, and Trump is a bad guy, and Trump wants Alberta to become the 51st state and this kind of stuff. Look, the vote is going to be for independence. We'll become our own entity, not the 51st state, not the province of Canada, but our own entity. Now, if the people want to become the 51st state, they'll have another plebiscite, another petition, and we can decide whether or not we want to be the 51st state. But, these Liberals are like, oh, Alberta's going to separate and become the 51st state. And Donald Trump is the bad guy, is going to take over Alberta. No, you're just fear-mongering. That's all you're doing. Stop it.
Stable aspect of America, when Rath and his team were down there meeting with them and they're helping to plan a road to succession, to me, that's vile, and that should be.
That's not what they're planning.
Should be in jail. So
false info.
And I think what Carney's doing. No, go ahead. I mean, you're on a roll.
I find it very interesting. Like, I just find it interesting how, like, I would never feel like I own Manitoba. And if I wanted to make it, if I was really unhappy, I would run for a government position and then make my feelings.
You know what? We already did. Alberta is conservative. We have the best people running Alberta based on the democratic vote of the people that live in the province. And with that, we have tried our best to try and deal with Ottawa, but because we're just a small potato and the little fish in the big ocean, we're unable to negotiate with Ottawa, unable to do what we want to do. And Ottawa is continuously pressing down on Alberta, taking as much money, sucking as much revenue as they can out of Canada, feeding a little bit of money back to us again, but taxing the hell out of us. Carbon tax, industrial carbon taxes, oil caps. You can't pull oil out of the ground. You can't make a pipeline. You can't bring more ships onto the West Coast. And you've got other provinces like EB and BC, the tree hugger that is like, no, we don't want any pipeline and stuff like that here. But yet the United States is like, hell, you guys want a pipeline? Come on. Put it through the northern part of the States out to Seattle, out to a port there, build a port out there, and you can ship your oil out there. Why is the States more than willing to deal with Alberta, but yet Eastern Canada is just treating us like so poorly, and just we're paying taxes like crazy. And like I say, you can't even have a child here anymore. It takes so much money to raise a child, and the food prices and housing prices and everything else is so expensive, and all your money is going for taxes back to Ottawa, and you don't have enough to live on. That's where we're at right now. Even to the point that some of the immigrants that have come over to Canada are actually leaving Canada because they understand after coming here how hard it is to make a buck and to even keep your head floating above water.
And thoughts felt that way. And if I wanted to make profound change to this province, I would want to run for different offices where I could make
did that.
Institutional change in that matter. But
doesn't work.
To try and drive up.
No, but I mean, the citizens' petition is exactly that. I mean, we have, as citizens, we have 2 times when we can exercise our voices. One is every 4 years when we vote, and then the other one is through these petitions. So this petition is a citizens movement. I mean, if we're doing what you're saying, we're getting 1 million people are going to vote on a question and affect change. But I want to come back to one thing. Jeff Rath and those guys, they just went to the US. That's a story, like, that was the worst kept secret on the planet. Rachel broke that story. Jeff Rath told Rachel and others a year ago, I'm going to the US to go talk with the US, like the worst kept secret on the planet. And Jeff and others went to the US simply to talk, to say, if we were to separate and things got ugly back home, could we count on you for a little bit of help? What's the process of getting a loan or a line of credit? So they were going there and investigating and asking questions, no different than Quebec did with France and other countries. Did you know that when Quebec was getting ready to hold its referendum, it had a sheet of paper, and the president of France was ready to declare, Vive le Québec libre, and recognize that Quebec was a sovereign state. By the way, and that's the other thing.
That is equally as wrong. It is equally as wrong, Marty.
Yeah. So when Carney last week says, so right now around the world, so Carney last week when he says, hey, I recognize the people of Palestine, even though they don't have a border, and I recognize the Palestinian state, that's correct, that's wrong? Or when he says...
Yeah, exactly. Carney can recognize Palestine as a state, which doesn't have borders or anything, but yet they're not going to allow Alberta to become independent, to become its own entity. Like, talk about the hypocrisy.
I recognize if the people of Greenland choose to separate from Denmark and choose to accept an offer from the US, and Carney literally says, I will respect that. So I hope that Carney will respect Alberta's wishes when we separate.
Troy, I'm going to give you just, you have 20 seconds to respond, and then we'll move on to the next segment.
You can give it more, but
I think with what Rath is doing, I'm just shocked that there's no question the hostility right now that the United States of America presents to Canada.
Okay, listen to what he's saying. Did you hear what he just said? The hostility that the United States represents to Canada. Why is that? Where did that hostility come from? It comes from the Canadian politicians. Trump is doing what he thinks is right to make America great again, and the Canadian politicians are interpreting it as hostility, and they're actually saying that. and they're actually saying bad things about Trump. And the last thing you do is, if you're the beta and you're into some kind of an agreement or trying to make agreements with an alpha, well, you have to know your place, know your role. And unfortunately, Carney, who's trying to go onto the world stage and call out Trump, all you're doing is pissing off the Americans, really. And you're not going to win in this little pissing match, I'll tell you right now. And to be saying that there's hostility, yeah, you're the ones that have amped up the hostility by saying, oh, we're going to take liquor off our shelves. We're not going to buy any more American liquor. We're going to tariff this stuff because they tariffed us, and we're not going to negotiate with them. Blah 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 blah. On and on it goes, to the point that they're actually thinking in their mind that there's hostility, but they're in their own actions actually perpetuating that whole thing, and it doesn't help to be talking the way he is. That's for sure.
And nobody who's following things closely is going to listen to anyone in that administration or related to that administration who's saying that they're speaking about this and that. They're not giving speaking of certain names that are doing any of the talking. There is no question that the United States of America has a vested interest if Alberta were to secede. And it stinks. It quacks like a duck, walks like a duck, all these sorts of things. It's stinky, and I think that it's treason.
Okay.
There he is again. The name calling from the left. Treason. It's treason. It's treasonous. No, it isn't. It's democracy, Mr. Liberal. It's probably NDP. I don't know if he's liberal or NDP, but same thing. The lefties, all they can do is slur, call names, put you down, and at the end of the day, you can't win an argument like that by calling it stinky and stuff like that. Like, come on.
That brings us to the end of that round. You guys have sort of already started talking about what we're going to be discussing next in our third topic here, which is U.S. and international relations. So, Marty, this question is for you. There is a lot of criticism that if Alberta does become an independent nation, it risks being very quickly absorbed by the United States of America. How can we have confidence that Alberta would remain independent?
Wow. Hang on. Canada could very easily get taken over by the United States, right? They're a big war machine. They have the nuclear bomb. They've got military. They've got jets. They've got everything. Why hasn't the United States taken over Canada now? They could very, very, very easily have done that. No, they haven't, because they understand the fact that Canada is a sovereign country, and they trade with us, and everything is going quite well. The same thing as Mexico. They could take over Mexico. They could take over whatever country they want. But that's not what the United States does. They may go into countries and help them out when there's problems going on, but they're not out just plain sending in the forces and taking over countries. So are they going to do that to Alberta? No, there's no reason for them to do that.
I mean, I honestly don't think that the risk of Alberta being absorbed is any different than Canada being absorbed. Like, if you want to think of it from let's get crazy, and if you want to think of it from a military point of view, if the U.S. wanted to take over Canada, they could have done it, but they haven't done it. They've had 250 years to do it, and they haven't done it. So I don't think there's that kind of relationship. So I'm not worried about an Alberta because, in fact, Alberta already does 80% of its trade with the U.S. and we have an amazing relationship with the U.S. and I don't see the advantage of the U.S. taking us over when they have such a nice relationship with us. And there's also the reality, the 51 state thing was all blown out of proportion. I think that was Trump toying with Carney, and then it got blown up. But I also want to say this, for Canada, for Alberta to be annexed into the U.S., like, in what form would that be? As a territory, like invaded as a territory? Would the other states allow it? I'm not sure about that. And I'll finish by saying this, very pragmatically speaking, if Alberta separates, it's a large geography. It's a country in size and GDP similar to Ireland, similar to Norway or whatever. And Alberta would still have a relationship with Canada, with the US, with NATO. We would join, and we would have other partners that would hopefully come to our defense if it was needed. But it's honestly not something I fear.
Troy, you want to go ahead and respond?
I sure do. When Marty's saying, but they haven't done it, as far as America showing aggression, posing a serious threat to America. America has never.
And Queenie, I don't own any apartment buildings, so I don't know what you're talking about.
Had an authoritarian as a president, which is what Donald Trump is, and what he's becoming as each day passes. when you're talking about Marty doesn't think they'll do this or that as far as acquiring land, you have Donald Trump referencing the Monroe Doctrine. You have the Monroe Doctrine referenced in Project 2025, which is like the playbook for Trump and the rest of it. And just dive into that. That Donald Trump would love that. The whole Monroe Doctrine and the Western Hemisphere, dividing that up, and then it gets into things with Putin and Xi as well, that sort of thing with Donald Trump. So no, I don't believe that America would not pose and is not a serious threat right now. And I also want to reference, when you're talking about the whole statehood thing, Jeffrey Rath in May 3rd of 25. We need to be an independent country before we can join the U.S. one step at a time. He admits that after independence, the 51st state is on the plate. And then, Rachel, you yourself actually tweeted on April 3rd, I believe it was, in 2025, Jeffrey Rath, and him saying that Jeffrey Rath says a delegate is planning to travel to D.C. to pitch President Trump on Alberta statehood. And then Rath's quote is, "It's quite evident that we're being governed by idiots in Ottawa. There's a number of us in Alberta that have had enough." So again, there he's kind of implying the statehood element. And I see all the time from Jeffrey Rath, he's talking about independence first and then movement.
No, well, you know what? If independence does actually happen, it's going to be a democracy where the citizens will have a vote as to whether or not they want to become the 51st state. So what are you so worried about that? If the democracy of, the majority of people want that, it'll happen. If a minority want it, it won't happen. It's simple. Like, what are you worrying about that for? So what? So what if Alberta becomes a 51st state? If it is, it is. Hey, our gain, your loss. Don't be a crybaby. Don't be a sore loser.
Into the 51st state, I think it's either naive or just flat falsehood when those who are interested in separating and tearing Alberta out of Canada, they can be. I think it's being packaged as independent, so it's a little bit warmer for Canadians to embrace. I think it's flat, though. Ultimately, they're going to become the 51st state if they succeed.
Okay, cool. So a quick rebuttal on my part. First of all, Jeff Rath is the leader, is one of the.
Yeah, he's only one guy. He he obviously doesn't like Jeff Rath for whatever reason. Okay, so be it. But this is more of a, he's like the talking guy, but it's like a movement. It's a movement of people, a whole bunch of independent people, like myself, like Marty, and like a whole bunch of other people. They've got literally thousands of people out there looking for signatures. That means that there's thousands of people that are really pro-independence. It's not just one person. It's a big movement.
Senior leaders of the Alberta Prosperity Project, which is on hold right now. If there's a referendum in Alberta and we choose separation, there's a lot of steps. So we would probably somebody like Smith could say, okay, I'll accept I'll lead the province into separation, or Smith could step down, and we would have to elect a new group and do lots of things. So Jeff is not an elected official. He can talk all he wants, but down the road, if we become independent, we will do it. We will still be a democracy, and we will elect leaders. So Jeff can talk all he wants right now. He's not an elected official. And on your Trump point, so back to what I just said, if at the best course right now, Alberta has a referendum at the end of this year, starts a negotiation with the rest of Canada, separates and becomes a nation. That's like 2.5 years from now. In 2.5 years from now, Trump will be gone. And so Trump might be an aberration right now, but the Americans have a beautiful system where they have
That's right. That's a very good point. Is that, politicians are temporary. They're not there forever. So just because you don't like the man Trump, does that mean that you don't like the United States? Well, apparently, whatever Trump is doing here today, if the Democrats get in the next term, they may very well turn everything around, and it'll be completely different. And they'll get rid of all the tariffs and go embrace Canada, and it'll be, hey, back to business as usual. Trump is just a temporary person in charge, and whatever he does, hey, good for him. Let him do it. Let him make America great again. But that doesn't make everybody here in Alberta some kind of a Trumpster or a MAGA. And they, up here in Canada, the term MAGA is like a bad thing. It's like they call you MAGA, as if you're like a extreme right-wing terrorist or something like that. The term MAGA has become really, really bad. To wear a hat that says "Make Canada Great Again" is like bad. That's like, wow, you're like part of MAGA and you're embracing MAGA and stuff like that. And the leftists like to really, really use this MAGA thing and call Alberta independent people MAGA type people, and that's absolutely wrong. Absolutely wrong. We live in Alberta. We live in Canada, and whatever Trump and MAGA does in the States stays in the States. It's not part of what we're doing here, you know. But yet they'll brandish us like that in order to smear the independence campaign. And all I can say is shame on you for doing it, liberals.
Peaceful change of power. And let's not forget, not too long ago, the Americans had an absolute lunatic named Joe Biden. So right now, like if you ask most people in Alberta who might be pro joining the US, if you said, would you want to join with Joe Biden as the leader, or would you join in 5 years from now when AOC is the new leader? People are going to go, whoa, no. So Trump is a temporary moment in that short term. And in the long term, I don't see the US annexing us. There'll be another president after Trump. The Trump derangement syndrome will come to an end.
I just want
Trump derangement syndrome is real, and the liberals have it. That's funny.
to verify here, Marty, and I get a kick out of folks that say Trump derangement syndrome. Anyone could go through my timeline for the last 10 years, find anything I've said about Trump that hasn't come to fruition. But you actually called Biden a lunatic, and you've stated that you support Trump on many occasions. So that's something to digest.
Elbows up.
I absolutely admire what he's doing for his country. I mean, he's bringing back the economy. He's kickstarting his economy. He's bringing back job. He's getting rid of the illegal immigrants. He's lowering taxes. He's improving the standard of living. I mean, he's doing what, you don't have to like Trump, but Trump is one of those politicians who says he's going to do something and does it. And so I admire that. I'd rather have a guy who's a little bit edgy and does what he says versus a guy like we have, who talks out of both sides of his mouth. So, I mean, by all measures, my life as a Canadian is worse off now than it was in 2014 because I've had 11 years of failure. So do I admire Trump? Absolutely, because he represents his people.
It's interesting you're saying after all the failure, because you in a tweet or in one of your videos recently stated how last year was a great year for you financially and that your children are all doing well, leaving the nest and chasing their dreams. So you're in such turmoil and so hard done by in Alberta current day that you're living a good life, still doing well financially, and your children are as well. And I want to move.
You know what? It's not about the individual. It's about the, and I'll use the term collective, the lefty term collective. Individuals may be doing well, but that doesn't mean that everybody is doing well. For example, if you're on AISH in Alberta, wouldn't you like to be getting a little more money on the plate? If there was a little more money within the province of Alberta, you would be getting more money. If you're on welfare in Alberta, you would be getting more money. If you're on a social assistance, you would be getting more money. If you're an elder and you're retired and all you have is your Canada pension plan. Right now, you know that when you send money to Ottawa, the money is being spent for your Canada pension plan. The bureaucrats in Ottawa are spending most of that money, and then they're investing your money in stocks that are like net zero and green and all the rest of that crap that hardly make any money at all. So at the end of the day, the amount that they can pay you is extremely small, as much as like $1,100 a month when you retire. Can you live on that? Will that pay for your apartment? Will that pay for your food? Will that pay for your vehicle? $1,100 a month? Are you kidding me? Well, it won't be like that if Alberta becomes independent, because the money will be flowing. Look at, even up in Alaska, they get $1,000 check for the oil reserves that they're pulling oil out of the ground. Every person in Alaska gets that $1,000 check. You're going to see stuff like that here in Alberta, where we're not going to have to pay the federal tax. They'll have more money on the table to buy food and housing, have children, be able to buy some diapers, all kind of stuff like that. Life will be great. So what if one person is doing well right now? Yeah, people are doing well, but the overall, everyone is not doing well, because if you're on minimum wage working at the 7-Eleven store, you're not able to get yourself an apartment. Come on.
Move also with Trump here. You
just because I'm the last person to be
points about.
No, just because
you're just
right, just I'm the last person to be
thing about. Marty, your regurgitation of Trump's points and the economy. No, I'm not, brother. I'm not trying to discredit you. I'm just contradicting
just because I'm the last shark who's going to get eaten doesn't mean. Yeah. All right. Okay.
But your support of Trump is I don't understand at this point in time. And I wonder what the percentage is of separatists who are MAGA or support Trump. Like, it's huge. And at this point in time, everyone, to James, Marty, and Rachel, like, there is.
See, do you see this? This is where the lefties bring up the MAGA thing. Just like I was saying. It's like, you guys are not Albertans. No, you're not Canadians. No, you're not real people. You're MAGA. You're Americans. You're just a bunch of MAGA. You know, it's like he's throwing that MAGA slur at everybody that is, you know, to make it bad and make you look bad and to make you feel bad and to be against the independence movement. You know, shame on you for even bringing that up. That's got nothing whatsoever to do with independence.
There is something wrong with individuals who are still willing to accept and embrace Donald Trump. He is, you can't, and everyone here is intelligent. And
you know what? If anyone would be a person that would embrace Donald Trump, it would be me. It would be me. Right? I like Donald Trump. I like his policies. I like what he's doing. Do I like the stuff that's coming out about Epstein? Absolutely not. Right? Do I like anything else about Trump? Well, he's the president of the United States. He's got the ICE thing going, and he's turfing out all of the illegal aliens in the country. Hey, great. You know, I like his policies of tariffs. I think that those are great. I thought tariffs were a good idea even before Trump instituted them. I thought that we should do that in Canada against cheap Chinese stuff like socks, shirts, pants, you know, stuff like that. And let's manufacture that stuff in Canada here. Bring some jobs home instead of sending all of our money to foreign countries and bringing their products in here. Let's produce more stuff in Canada. Tariffs do that for you. But you know, if anyone we could call, you know, a MAGA, it would be me. And I'm not MAGA. I'm an Albertan. Americans are Americans. Trump is Trump. And people do and say what they want. But I'm sick and tired of these liberals trying to brandish everybody that is a conservative in Canada as some kind of a MAGA. You bad, dirty, bad MAGA. Shame on you.
Has a capability of thinking. The man is very obviously a pathological liar, and he and this Epstein thing is so vile and horrible for people to continue to support Donald Trump when it is.
Nobody is supporting Donald Trump. This guy has Trump derangement syndrome to the nth degree, for God's sakes.
There is,
typical.
It's not a mountain of evidence. It's a mountain range of evidence with him and the Epstein situation. And whether it blows up, whether it actually all comes to fruition and blows up in 2 weeks from now.
You know, if Trump is a criminal, arrest him and throw him in jail. But that's got nothing to do with us and the independence movement in Canada. Like, come on. This is just total bullshit. You know, he's the one bringing up the bullshit. Later on here, he talks about something out in the field and that it's bullshit. Yeah, he's spewing the bullshit.
2 months from now or 2 years from now, it is going to come up. And everyone that supported Donald Trump is going to have to justify how they overlooked all the obvious signs.
So you're going to drop Donald, you're going to drop our neighbors, our cousins, the people with whom we've done trade for 250 years. You're going to drop them because they got Donald Trump, and you're going to jump in bed with the communist Chinese who.
Yeah. Good point. You can't make this up. Carney is like, he doesn't want to negotiate with Trump. He's afraid because he's the beta and Trump is the alpha. And all he does is throw him under the bus. Goes over there to Davos, to the WEF, stands in front of the world and calls out Trump, you know, but he's just a wimpy little dog. And he then he whimpers over to China and tries to make some kind of a deal to bring in those electric spy cars here. Oh my God. It's like, you can't make this stuff up. It's like stupidity to the nth degree, really, honestly.
By the way, Carney during the leadership debate last year. He wanted the talking point so badly that he interrupted the host and said, "I just want to say that I think the worst threat to Canada right now is China." So he said it, and now he's jumping in bed with China, and you're doing mental gymnastics and backflips to support Carney and support China, and you're discrediting Trump, who's done nothing for you. Trump has not attacked you. All Trump is doing is, it should be a wake-up call for us that we've become lazy. We did not diversify our trade. We've become complacent, and Trump is doing something for the Americans. So, like, it's a
Marty, when a man is unstable,
he's not unstable.
Marty, when he has threatened us, he's not unstable. Come on, man. Like,
How's
you're
he
a smart
threatened us?
dude.
You know, him talking like that is part of why Canada is having a hard time negotiating with Trump, because when you call him unstable and, you know, it's craziness. It's just, he's a typical liberal with liberal talking points. Like, I think he's been listening to Doug Ford a little bit too much, honestly.
What threat is that?
He has threatened us. He's threatened us to have us become the 51st state. He's threatened to.
That wasn't a threat. It's like, come on. He's playing word games on the world stage, saying, "Wow, hey, Canada should become the 51st state." And he also called Carney Governor Carney. You know, like, come on. It's playing word games, and you're like taking it as some kind of a threat. Shit, or get off the pot there, guy.
To invade us. He's threatened all kinds of the trade, the tariffs, and all the rest of it. The man is a constant, perpetual threat. And to say that he isn't is remarkable. He's not trustworthy. He's unstable, and he's threatening us as a sovereign nation.
You know what? If you don't know how to communicate with them, you don't know how to negotiate with them, and you don't bother to go down there and even talk to him, but all you do is talk to him behind his back. The same as what Trudeau did, by the way. Carney is doing the same thing. Undermining the man, undermining Trump will not get you anywhere. It's just plain common sense. And Carney does not have common sense. Instead of negotiating with Trump, he runs to China. Give me a frickin' break.
Nation. And when you're talking also about the whole China and trading with China, for Pete's sake, look at the numbers are remarkable, how deeply entrenched the USA is in trade with China. And they are a force. And I know there's all kinds of things. And I know Theo Fleury thinks by osmosis that we as a nation are going to become communist because we're trading with a communist nation. But China as an...
You know what? We need to trade with the United States. We do probably 75% of our trade with the United States. We only do 4% of our trade we buy 4% of the stuff from China. You know that? Like, really? We buy about 8% of our stuff from China, and we sell about 4% of our Canadian goods to China. That is a very small amount compared to what we do with the United States.
Entity and as an economic power is something to behold, and it's remarkable. And when you have such a threatening, unstable force to the south of us for the first time that we've ever seen, where you cannot trust Donald Trump in any measure whatsoever. And Mark Carney, I'm not necessarily a massive fan of any individual party, Marty, but when Mark Carney has to leave Canada and cannot turn to America.
Hang on. It's his own doing. Mark Carney refused to negotiate with Trump. He was unable. He didn't understand Trump. He doesn't understand the way Trump works. He's refusing to negotiate with Trump. And he's running everywhere else in the world trying to make a deal with everybody else instead of negotiating with our number one trade partner. It's despicable for Carney to do that. He's the one that got Canada into the state. And the only way that we can change that is to get Carney out of there. Throw him out, vote him out, and put in somebody that will be able to negotiate with Trump, because Carney is not the guy to do that whatsoever. And this guy doesn't see that. He's like blaming Trump when the guy that you need to blame is Carney.
And needs to start finding other trading partners. I have a hard time not applauding what he has done, given the unpredictable elements of the States and how unstable everything is, where he is reinventing things on the fly along with Europe and everybody else. Like he said, that whole New World Order thing that individuals
Yeah. You know what the New World Order is? It's like, wow, now that I can't negotiate with Trump because I don't know how to negotiate with Trump, I'll just go running around and try and deal with everybody else in the world, and I'll call it the New World Order. And we'll also bring my book into it and bring in green energy and net zero and carbon credits and all kind of bullshit that will tax the hell out of you and me and all the corporations and make Brookfield and those carbon credit companies rich. What a plan. What a plan. Suck more money out of you, benefit Carney, and he's laughing all the way to the bank, and you guys are too freaking stupid to understand what's even going on.
Sort of are over on your side of the ledger with Theo Fleury and stuff, and it's some, all the acronyms come into play and stuff like that with the World Economic Forum and stuff like that. But when Carney mentioned that, when the United States of America had a certain,
you were happy when Carney mentioned the New World Order.
I'm saying when he did that, Marty.
You really should read.
Let me finish. When he mentioned that, he's talking about the standing of the USA.
I've given you guys a little extra time for the segment. Marty, I'm going to go to you. You can respond, and then we'll move on.
Nah, I mean, the New World Order should scare everybody, and Carney gave us his plan. He wrote a book called, Value. So read his book, my friend, because he's laying out his plan and he's going to do it to us. So I
haven't read the book Values, but it outlines his whole plan about net zero. And you know what? The whole book is about you will own nothing and you will be happy. Go read the book Values by Mark Carney.
You're going to be on the wrong side of history on this one, and you're going to wake up one morning with owning nothing and being happy. It's happening to you. So I hope you wake up on this one, because getting in bed with China, again, I'm going to fundamentally disagree. But let's move on. Thanks.
Exactly.
All
Agreed.
right. We've talked a little bit about the USA. Let's actually, I think it's good to bring it back to Canada itself. So there are people that are arguing that Alberta would be better off, like independent from an economic standpoint. Troy, what would you say to those people? Like, what is the economic argument for why Alberta's better in Canada than it is being independent?
And this is something, James, Marty, and Rachel, that I do not know the intricacies and the remarkable complexities of whether or not Alberta would be stronger or not in or out of Canada. I've read a bunch in the last week or so about how the dreams and what a lot of those who want to have an independent Alberta, how there's going to be a bunch of level of struggle involved in that sort of stuff from an economic base and all this sort of stuff. But that's not even the question to me. I find it interesting because when we first talked about getting together to talk to one another, Marty was like, you can tell me why Alberta should stay in Canada. And that's not the situation to me. I don't, as a Canadian, I don't need to get on my knees and beg that Marty and his separatists, please stay with us. That's not it at all. And I think most proud Canadians are like, to Marty and anyone else that wants to secede from here, get the hell out of Canada. If you're so unhappy and hard done by, then leave the country. And we will fight. Proud Canadians will fight to keep.
Hang on. Thank you very much for the advice. That's exactly what Alberta is going to do. We're going to leave the country. We're leaving the country. We're leaving Canada. The province is leaving Canada. We want to leave Canada because we're not happy within Canada, and he's telling us to kick rocks and leave. What? I was born here in Alberta. Where am I going to leave? To the place that I was born? What kind of stupidity is that? That's like telling an immigrant here to go home. We don't want you here. Go. If you don't like it here, get the hell out. He's telling Albertans that we're born here to get the hell out. Go what? Where are we going to go? This is our home. This is our land. That is the stupidest thing to say ever, is to get the hell out. What a POS.
Canada a coherent sovereign nation with the 10 provinces and 3 territories. And I don't think that Albertans have the right. Some rogue group of discontent individuals who don't like...
No. You're trying to call me a rogue group of discontent individuals? We're people that were born here. We've been unhappy all of our lives living within the metes and bounds of Confederation. We're sick and tired of being abused by Ottawa. And, if all you can do is just bash us, you're no better than Carney and the rest of the crew bashing the United States. You're bashing us in Alberta. And you know what? When you bash us, it just makes us dig in and want to separate and become independent even more.
the changing landscape around them a little bit, and they want to buddy up to this hostile power down south. And whether Trump,
You know, it's false information, rhetoric, and propaganda. You know, this guy here is like typical. He's typical. You know, he's like, what? Does he work for CBC? CBC is probably spouting the same bullshit as well. You know? Sick and tired of this stuff. And he has the audacity to tell us to get out, leave if you don't like it.
Trump was there, whether it was Trump or anybody else in the States. I just can't stand the notion whatsoever. But Canadians don't need to cow down and beg for these separatists to please change their mind or change course. Right now they're in the minority. I think the further we get into this, that you hear more and more proud Albertans taking steps and making themselves more vocal, saying, hey, we are the clear majority here. Alberta is staying and going nowhere. And I'm very intrigued and interested to see how certain individuals, Marty said that if it ends up being a loss for what they're trying to do, that he'll wear it well and lose with respect and that sort of thing. But I wonder with the likes of guys like David Parker and yada yada, all these others, guys like Theo Fleury, other individuals, when this doesn't work, what's going to happen with all these discontents that really push for independence and it fails? And I think it's going to crash and burn.
Marty, we'll go to you.
All right. So I'll
There's no reason why it would crash and burn. No reason whatsoever. You know what? At this moment in time, Canada is crashing and burning because Carney is spending billions and billions and billions and billions, and he doesn't have any way to produce a revenue. Why do you think Carney is attrition or whatever, or firing? I'm not going to say firing, but he's letting go so many federal workers. Why? Why is he doing that? Because he doesn't have any money for all of the billions of dollars that he's spending. Like we're under the guise of a guy that is just, imagine that you had a wife and your wife was spending, you're working, right, making your $2,000 a month, and she's out there spending $5,000 a month. Well, how long is your household going to last? That's what's happening in Canada here right now. And really, they're sucking more and more money out of Alberta all the time here. And they're not allowing us to build any pipelines to bring us a little more money in here so that we can build more schools and hospitals and things like that. Our healthcare system is overrun. We've got so many immigrants that have come into Canada here that you have to wait 8 hours plus at the emergency in the hospital before a doctor will even see you. People are dying waiting for medicine here in Alberta. And, the Liberals go, oh, that's the fault of the Alberta government. No, it's not. It's the fault of the federal government for bringing so many immigrants in. That's what it's supply and demand. It's pretty simple. We're being overrun by so many immigrants and with so many expenses from the federal government, which is going to cause inflation to go up like crazy. Food prices were up over 6%. Unbelievable. Go to the store and try and buy something. You'll see.
Yeah, so I'll pretend that Troy's asking me, why am I pissed off and why do I want to leave? I want to leave for cultural reasons. I want to protect my culture, but I also want to leave because I'm being economically abused. So as Canadians, as an Albertan, I pay taxes to 3 levels of government. For the $10,000 I pay in taxes, $1,000 goes to my municipality, $3,000 goes to Edmonton, and $6,000 goes to Ottawa. And of the $6,000 I send to Ottawa, I only get about $3,000 back in services. So the rest vanishes, and it's it vanishes in equalization payments. It vanishes in wasted programs. It vanishes in all sorts of things. And for the longest time, once in a while,
and by government employees back in Ottawa, right? Which those government employees in a independent Alberta would be people that work right here in our province, instead of us sending all that money out of the province over to Ottawa, and then it vanishes.
While Albertans can get over that because, as I will admit, we do very well. But once in a while, we have a small downturn in the economy or things go wrong and we ask for a bit of help and that help doesn't come. But that's not even bad enough. Lately, we're being pushed down. So they don't want us to, they're blocking our pipelines. They're imposing net zero on us. They're taking away our firearms. They want to take away our land. They do all sorts of things. But from an economic point of view, as an Albertan, I get no benefit from being in Confederation. It's costing me money. For me, during the 18 years that my kids were at home, it's estimated that it was $6,000 per Albertan. So I have 6 kids in my family. That's $36,000, or 6 people in my family times 18. I sent $600,000 to Ottawa that I never saw back. And then if we separate, instead of wasting that money and sending it to Ottawa, we'll spend a little bit of it to build our own defense, but we will build our slush fund like Norway did. Norway started putting away. Yeah, Norway grew a $2 trillion fund in 30 years, and we could do the same thing and pay no income tax.
Yeah. And then the other thing, think of what the government did during COVID. They completely decimated so many businesses. I saw so many businesses put up out of business signs, like restaurants and things like that. They prevented people from working. And then they gave people literally billions of dollars to sit at home. They prevented you and I from going to a restaurant without taking a jab. They forced you to take a jab, or else you couldn't even go to eat in a restaurant. It's like, look at all the harm they did. And then at the end of the day, what they gave you didn't help. Didn't help. People still got it. It was like bad governance. Absolutely bad. Terrible.
Okay, we'll move to open debate. Go ahead, Troy.
Did Marty just say he has 6 kids?
4 kids, 6 in my family.
4 kids.
I have 4 kids.
I was going to say pump the brakes, fella. If you got 6 kids, it's time to pump the brakes. But I don't really have any rebuttal to that. I just, like, I don't, hey, man, taxes suck. Everyone hates paying them. They're tough in all the provinces. We also have the benefits of the healthcare system that is far from perfect and always a constant thing that's trying to be made better and all the rest of it. But those things are challenging and difficult. And maybe if Alberta separated, they would get a bit of a relief from that. But then there's all kinds of services that come into play and how they're going to serve their population, all the rest of it. But again, the heart of the matter of this is,
you know what? When you're put under the gun to get something done, you work at it and you get it done. So whatever Alberta needs to do to become independent, we will do it. We will do it. Even if I have to join in. And I did a podcast there where I was at a Army surplus store with a bunch of Army jackets behind me. And I did a video where I said, you know what? If I need to join the Alberta Army when Alberta separates, hey, so be it. And people laughed and go, oh, you're too old to do something like that, whatever. That video got 75,000 views. 75,000 views. And there were a lot of people from Alberta that were like pro-independence. Absolutely. So whatever it takes, we'll do it. If people have to come out of retirement to help out, they will. People will get this done. But people are fed up with Ottawa. They're fed up with Canada, and Albertans need independence. And, hey, I'm going to do whatever I can to get the word out that this is something that needs to happen. Like, if I was happy living within Canada, I'd be going, no, I don't want independence. I'm happy getting all my money sucked out of my pocket and sent to Quebec and Ontario. But I use common sense, and common sense tells me that that's not good and that we can do better.
I don't really care if Alberta and the separatists are going to be better off economically because they leave Canada. The option to leave Canada should not be in play. It is in play. It's convoluted as the dickens. There's all kinds of hoops to jump through, even if
you're pissed off.
Vote. But I think proud Canadians are going to step up and play a massive role in speaking up, and anyone that's on the fence about maybe I should sign that and vote yes or not. I think the more we get into this, the more proud Canadians are going to step up and influence people to stay in Canada.
But again,
no, the longer it goes, the more people are going to want to separate because they're hearing what the huge benefits are of independence. Sure, you're going to have some people like Queenie that are like, oh, this is my country, whatever, and you're not going to take it away or whatever. Yeah, okay. But do you know how many natives on the reserves are signing this petition? I know a guy. He's called Alberta Radio. He's actually gone with the petition onto reserves, and a lot of natives in Alberta are signed up for the independence. They're signing the plebiscite because they're sick and tired of the chief getting all the money, and it doesn't, dribble down to the people on the reserves. The people are still living in poverty. They don't have that much money, and the band leaders are the ones that are getting rich. You know that. I know that. And it has to change. And of course, independence will help everyone in the whole province, not just me, but everyone.
Again, Troy, I find your argument weird. So I'm telling you honestly, I'm unhappy. So if 1 million Albertans said they're unhappy in the referendum, you would say to all 1 million of them, get the heck out of the country.
I would say you are spoiled brats. I would say you're spoiled.
That one I hear often. Yeah, we're spoiled.
Okay. I would say I'm going to call you a name. And there you see the liberal name calling right there. In other words, if you didn't win the argument, you're just going to call the other party a name. Okay? Sticks and stones will break my bones, but names will never hurt me. This guy's a typical liberal. Liberals, all they do is call you names over and over and over again. Like racist, misogynist, xenophobic, homophobic, terrorist, We've heard them all. And that's all you guys can do is call names. But, when you lose the argument, yeah, that's when the name calling comes out.
How lucky we are to live where we live on the planet. And
then move to Alberta if you want to be spoiled with me.
That's the interesting thing, right? Anyone like that, for the separatists to think that they own Alberta, this is my doggone land that I'm stepping on, we're going to take it and go.
It's not separatist.
No, it's not that we think this is our land, but we have a democracy in Alberta. It's a democracy that will dictate whether or not Alberta leaves. If we get enough of a vote, we'll leave. If we don't, we'll stay. It's a democracy. You're making it seem like we're selfish people and that we own this land. Yeah. If you were born in Alberta, if you were born in Manitoba, you do what the hell you want in Manitoba, in Winnipeg. Okay. Do what you want. Okay. But for us over here in this province, we're going to do what we want. And we're not going to have guys like you trying to tell us what to do, or Carney or anybody else in Canada. This is a democracy. We're living in a democracy, and we're going to vote. And the whole thing is set up so that if we vote and if we get enough people that win in a vote, we'll separate. It's already set up. It's set up to do that. It's not like we're trying to do something like in Russia or something where we've got a dictator that says, no, you can't vote to do that. You stay and you listen to me and live in poverty forever. No, that's not the way it is. We're going to vote and we're going to do what we want to do.
Move into anybody from Saskatchewan and Manitoba can move in. All the rest of it, this is Canada.
And don't forget, there's also a movement in Saskatchewan for independence in Saskatchewan as well. One just started up in British Columbia. You know what? Except for that lower mainland area around Vancouver, pretty much the rest of British Columbia is conservative, and they want independence as well. So it's not just Alberta that's pissed off with Eastern Canada and Ottawa, but it's a lot of the provinces out west here.
We can move into different provinces and take part in the culture, or wherever we feel most at home. We have the ability to move around the country as we wish, live where we want. And so
you'll still have that ability to move. You'll be able to. You'll be able.
The whole I don't know how you would. Well, I would define the movement as a white Christian nationalist movement, Marty.
There he goes. We're a bunch of white Christian nationalists. There he goes. With the name calling again. You know what? It's a diversified group of people that are signing the petition. You've got black people, you've got white people, you've got natives, you've got Indians, you've got East Indians, you've got people, Muslims, you've got people from Arabs, people, whoever immigrated to Canada. it's a diverse group of people that are signing the plebiscite. And for this guy to call the people that are interested in independence white Christian nationalists is a fucking slap in our face. It's a typical liberal, name-calling liberal. Shame on you.
When I see that, it just is. And you want to try and argue with me that it's not, but by and large, Troy. What part of what I'm saying is wrong?
Come canvass with me. I pull out my pickup truck and I go park it on the side of the highway, and I've been collecting signatures. I've been doing it for 7 days in a row now, and I collect 40 or 50 signatures, and I cannot put my finger on the demographic of who's signing. It's tradespeople, it's professionals, it's old people, it's young people, it's immigrants. If I was allowed to, I would read the names off the petition sheet that I have right now, and you would be absolutely blown away at who's signing that. I've had
what percentage of immigrants would you have signing that, Marty? Okay, when I see the photos of the meetings and all the rest of it, I don't see a single.
You're looking at it with your eyes closed, Troy. You're looking at it with your eyes closed. I walked the crowd. Hey, I walked the crowd. We showed you guys the video, and you guys are putting the blinders on. You are in absolute denial of what's going on. Come see it with your own eyes, man. Come see it with your own eyes.
Marty, I see the videos though. I see it, brother. Like, are you trying to tell me that there's a diverse group of Canadians?
Yes, there is. You know, in Edmonton, I went to a rally. There was an independence rally last fall. There were 12,000 people at the rally. That is the largest rally that I have ever been to for any event in Edmonton. It's not just a couple of white nationalists, Christians. This liberal guy is absolutely delusional. And really, the name calling and the rest of the rhetoric that he's coming up with is typical for what the bullshit that the liberals are trying to spread. Unbelievable.
Yes, cheering on secession of Alberta.
A diverse group of Albertans.
Bullshit.
No.
I'm going to call horseshit on that. Whatever. I'm going to share a rural term with you because I grew up around horses a whole bunch. I'm going to call horseshit on that one, Mark.
See, you see that? Another name. Horseshit. Name calling after name calling after name calling. That's all the liberals have. No common sense.
Okay. I will go out of my way then to keep producing videos and putting up videos, because that's what I do. I sit there at the canvassing location and I keep asking people 3 simple questions. Why are you signing? What do you say to people who think that this is a fringe movement? And what do you want to say to Carney? I'm collecting all the what do you want to say to Carney? And that's going to be an awesome video, because Albertans are absolutely, you guys are going to wake up and you're going to be shocked when there's 1 million signatures on that petition. You guys are going to, if there's 1 million signatures, will you change your tune?
No, nothing will change my tune. You have no right to.
You see that? There may very well be 1 million signatures on the just on the petition, never mind the vote. And there's 5 million people that live in Alberta here. You know, not everyone is going to sign that petition. But of those that do, they're definitely very outgoing with their independence. But, you know, is that going to prove anything to Troy Westwood? Nothing will. Nothing will.
Leave the country. But let me ask you this. What percentage of those who want Alberta to secede that you're signing up and stuff, what percentage of those individuals would be Trump supporters in your opinion?
Oh my God. Oh my God. It's like, you know, try and taint the entire independence movement with questions like that. You know, I would consider myself to be somebody that, you know, a Trump supporter. I'm a Trump supporter. Big deal. So what? So I like what Trump is doing in the States. I don't like the Epstein file thing at all, but I like the fact that he's doing tariffs to try and bring jobs back to the States. He's trying to make the country a better place for everybody in there. He's trying to get rid of the illegals. You know, I support some of his policies. But does that mean anything else? Like, so what? Who gives a shit? if somebody is a Trump supporter. What does that have to do with anything? Do I support Carney? No, I think he's the worst prime minister ever for Canada. He's not negotiating with Trump. He doesn't understand Trump. He's too scared to even go down there and talk to Trump. He's just a weak leader of our country. I respect Trump. Do I want Alberta to be the 51st state? No. If we vote to become that, okay, so be it. But to try and say that everyone that is in favor of independence is some kind of a white nationalist Trump supporter is pure bullshit, pure horseshit. You said it, pure rhetoric. And that's just like CBC, CTV, City TV, the mainstream media, all the paid media that push this kind of propaganda and bullshit that this guy is pushing. And everybody needs to call him out. We can't go along with having people say stuff like this. All he's doing is trying to bash the movement. That's all. You know, and it's the same way that Trudeau right away came out and tried to bash the convoy to Ottawa, right? It's like, you guys are a bunch of terrorists. That's the first thing he said. The first words out of Trudeau's mouth is, okay, smear the campaign and then not deal with them. So what this guy is doing is he's trying to smear our campaign so that other people will hear him and go, oh, well, I'm not going to join up with those white nationalist Trump supporters. No, that's not what it is. Absolutely not what it is. It's got nothing to do with Trump. It has to do with independence and for Albertans having a better life, more money on the table, and not to be dictated by Ottawa and all of the liberals out there that don't have it in for Alberta. They're not for Alberta at all. Harry, thanks a lot for that super chat. Appreciate that.
I don't know if they're Trump supporters, but I've asked a few of them if they prefer independence as a country or joining the U.S. And joining the U.S. is like almost a big fat zero. So I know you're trying to go there, but there's no problem that joining the U.S. would solve that we can't solve on our own. Do you really think that I want to join the U.S. and be a teeny weeny little state farther from Washington than I am currently from Ottawa? Like, it solves no problem. The only thing that would be advantageous to joining the U.S. would be perhaps their economic powerhouse and temporarily adopting their dollar and the umbrella of security that they provide from defense. But there's no solution that we can't come up on our own. The problems that we have with Confederation.
That's not the point that I'm making, though, Marty. The point that I'm making.
No, but that's the
That's
question.
right. What we need is independence for ourselves first, and then if the province wants to join up and become the 51st state, we can democratically vote on that. So don't worry your little ass off that that's going to happen, because if it does happen, it will be the will of Alberta. And just because you're sitting over in Winnipeg or Ottawa or somewhere, suck it up.
U.S. and the answer is nobody wants to join the U.S.
It's the by and large, this movement that you're part of is a white Christian nationalist movement. And I know for sure David Parker embraces that and pushes that in a huge way.
This, you might have someone by the name of David Parker, which I don't even follow him, that might be a white Christian nationalist. Okay, that's one person in the whole movement. So what? I'm not a white Christian nationalist. I'm a nationalist in the sense that if I'm within Canada, I like to see Canada be a nation and to have closed borders and not to be inviting everybody in. And so what if people are a so-called white Christian nationalist? Is that a bad thing? Is that so terrible? And I don't think that everyone, and remember, he said there's a diversified number of people, and I saw that myself. There's people of all colors, all religions, all whatever, that are signing this petition. And what, you're going to try and brand everybody as a white Christian nationalist? That's just ludicrous. It's It's again brandishing the movement with some kind of a brush that makes the whole thing look bad. That's all he's trying to do, you know, and really be aware of that this is what the liberals are trying to do.
Way. And there's nothing you can say to change my mind on that. MAGA is a white Christian nationalist movement at its base, and so is
the only
in Alberta.
I will say this. I think you're wrong on that one, but I will say this: there probably is more Albertans who are like me, who appreciate what Trump is doing for his country than Ontarians, because Albertans, and you're close.
Yeah. Trump is doing more for his country than Carney is doing for our country. I will agree with that 100%. But that doesn't make us a white Christian nationalist. This guy is delusional.
As a Manitoban, we lived a different history. The history of the prairies and the U.S. is different than the history of Ontario and New York and Boston and the states there. So I do say I have more in common with my American counterparts, with people in Texas and Oklahoma, than I do with people in the Maritimes. So perhaps for that reason, hang on one second. There's a kinship with the U.S. and we also like Trump because Trump's not Trump likes us and we like him because he buys our oil. We do business together. We don't antagonize each other. Whereas you guys, through Carney and Doug Ford, are antagonizing Trump. So of course it's all rubbed up, but we don't antagonize. You guys get shit when Trump wasn't even elected yet and Danielle Smith was going into the US and meeting Trump. You guys were like, she's not on Team Canada. My God, like
that's true.
You want politicians to do what they're supposed to do, and then you don't want them to do. So Danielle Smith built a relationship.
It's like whoever talks to Trump is like a white Christian nationalist MAGA. Like it's so terrible the way the people in Canada, and especially the politicians in Canada, have made the America look like, you know, and Trump look like the boogeyman, and that if you talk to him so much as even go down there and talk to him or do anything, you are just such a terrible person. You're like the worst of the worst of the worst, and we don't want to have anything to do with you.
With the U.S. and consequently, and Donald Trump, and there's no animosity to us, and you guys have animosity, and you wonder why. Doug Ford does a commercial during the Super Bowl mocking the Americans.
Yeah,
come on. So
Marty, anyone that's
you guys are antagonizing
the United States of America, like we are responding to the antagonism of Donald Trump, which is world renowned, Marty. But it seems to somehow fly past you or through you. Like the amount of lying the man does, the threat and the lack of stability that he's got. The entire globe laughs at Donald Trump. But yet and it seems like your circle embraces Donald Trump. And yet he's one of the most vile individuals on this planet who is.
Nobody is embracing Donald Trump. You know, this is where he's got it wrong. Absolutely wrong. Like if there was anybody that would be the Trump supporter, it would be me. Right? But I don't embrace him. I don't agree with everything that Trump does. Trump is the president of the United States. That's another country. I don't live there. You know, I like some of his policies. Some of his policies I don't like. Some of the stuff that's going on, like with the Epstein files, I don't like. But that doesn't mean that I call the man out or call out all Americans because of what Trump is doing. Even people in the States don't like everything that Trump is doing. But, you know, to try and make Alberta independent people look bad just because we're normal people that look at what's happening and don't throw stones at people. But you're throwing stones. You're throwing stones at the Americans. You're throwing stones at Trump. And then you expect to make a deal with them. That's what Carney is doing. And, you know, that's the reason that Canada is doing so poorly in relations and with negotiations with the United States. Because you guys throw stones and then you expect to have some kind of agreement and to talk and to make deals. And it doesn't work that way. That's why Trump is calling Carney the governor, the governor of Canada, because all that he does is throw stones at the States. So, you know, we're getting exactly what we deserved. And you're like perpetuating the throwing stones by saying the things that you're doing during this interview.
who is also
Donald Trump has done
deeply
nothing.
entrenched with Jeff.
Donald Trump has done nothing bad to me. Donald Trump is buying 4 million barrels of oil from Alberta. It's
No,
like
no.
he's
The
done
United
great.
States
And by
of
the way,
America
not the entire world
buys
is laughing
that-
at Trump.
that
Go
oil
ask the
from
people
you.
in Venezuela how much they.
Marty,
Go ask the
the
people.
United States
Trump
of
has
America
signed peace
buys
deals, man. There's a
the
peace
natural
deal in the middle.
resources of Alberta. Now you're gonna tout his war stopping ability and all the rest of it. You're into it up to your ears,
I am.
huh, with him. Well, you know what you're
No,
embracing
I don't
as well,
suffer
Marty.
of-
You're embracing.
No, I'm
a
looking with my eyes,
pedophile
and I
who's
can
deep
formulate
in
an opinion on
Epstein
my own.
files.
I can formulate an.
So then,
okay,
how do you accept the whole Epstein thing, Marty? And how do you tell me that? Tell me how.
You don't. You can't accept the Epstein thing. All you can say is if somebody is guilty of some kind of an offense, then the FBI or the CIA or whatever should look into it and lay some charges. And if nobody is doing that and nobody is going to jail, what can you say? You know, we don't like the accusations. I don't, you know, like even in the chat, I see accusations happening. You know, lots of people say lots of stuff, but, you know, you can't really comment on something until you see some criminal activity and you see somebody go to jail. And I don't see something like that happening. Is it being suppressed? Who knows? I don't know. Just because you don't like something, that doesn't make it real. Just because you hear something and something is an ongoing thing, an ongoing investigation, maybe people are going to come forward. Maybe people are going to go to court. Maybe people are going to see the FBI and that charges are going to be laid. Hey, until that happens, you don't make decisions. You don't say, oh yeah, this is this or this is that. It's like us running a Facebook group. We don't post stuff on there just because somebody says Joe Blow did something and I don't like it. No, but if something goes to court and there's some result of it, yeah, then you do the post on it. And what this guy is talking about is like innuendos. Yeah, okay, there's innuendos out there about Epstein and whatever. I don't like it. You don't like it. Nobody likes it. But that doesn't mean that we start throwing rocks because of it.
Thing doesn't bother me. I don't care. I'm not on. Why do you care about Epstein? Because Carney's on the list 69 times. You want to go down?
Carney's on the list. Yeah, Carney. Yeah. How about that? Good point. Carney is on the Epstein list. Talk about that.
No, you want the facts. Get the facts.
Oh,
Marty.
well then.
You have 4 kids.
Forget about Epstein then.
his
If you want to go down
association
this
with Jeff
path, if you want to go down the path of protecting children, then you should be ashamed of yourself for voting for the Liberals who keep promoting this transgenderism bullshit. Like, come on, man. Like, you're going Epstein. Epstein is dead, and it's an island, and it's something that happened 20 years ago, and it doesn't affect me. Epstein doesn't affect you, and it doesn't affect me.
It doesn't
Keep it
affect
home,
you.
man. If you want to protect children, then you should be critical of the Liberals, not Epstein.
When we were kids,
you're
Marty,
deflecting,
when we were kids, Marty.
Very good point. In British Columbia, 10 people were killed by a transgender transitioning male to female. And that stuff is promoted by the Liberal government and being pushed into our school system by the Liberals. The Conservatives are trying to prevent that kind of stuff. How about that?
I'm not.
You're deflecting.
Marty,
You're
when
totally
we were
deflecting.
kids.
Okay,
Look at that's funny that when Marty brings that up, he all of a sudden shuts up and doesn't want to talk about it. Okay.
I'm gonna let Troy respond, and then we're gonna move on to the
when
next
we were
segment.
kids, Marty, when we were kids, and I find it really sad that
Let's see if he actually responds or if he deflects onto something else.
generations, and I think it's mostly Gen X and certainly Gen Z here, but when we were kids, Marty, we heard about people who it's not affecting me, and they just let it happen, right? And the never again,
Yeah, but you know what? When I was a kid, when we went to school, we didn't read books about learning how to suck dick. Nowadays, they want those books in the school.
that whole notion of an authoritarian type rule and individuals, the parallels
now you're being a hypocrite
between what
because now you're being
Hitler
a
and Donald
hypocrite because
Trump
earlier
did.
you told now you're being a
Shut up,
hypocrite
Marty.
because
Dude,
earlier Yeah,
No,
but earlier you said
that
you
it
don't
doesn't
care
affect you,
because
but for you to just brush aside the Epstein portion of Donald Trump's soul and all of his pathological.
Carney is in the Epstein files. Come on. Talk about that. You know, what's this whole deal with Trump and the Epstein files? What the hell does that have to do with Alberta independence? Really, honestly, it's like he's making it seem like somebody that supports independence, somehow supports wrongdoings that was happening in Epstein Island 30 years ago. What a bunch of bullshit. Talk about somebody that's trying to taint something with some bullshit that has absolutely nothing to do with it.
Line, which is undeniable.
Okay, guys.
Okay,
guys.
All right, moving.
I think
ridiculous.
If you want to get back to that at the end, you can. I let you go quite a bit longer there because I cut one of the segments because it was getting a bit redundant. You had already talked about it. So this will be our final segment, and I'll give you a little extra time in this as well. And we're going to take a look at Alberta's future here. This question was originally for Troy, but since he started with the last one, I will go to you, Marty. Let's say we have an independence referendum and it fails. Should Canada still seek to address separatist dissatisfaction with Confederation? And if so, how can that be done?
I would hope so. I mean, if it fails, you're talking very, practically not getting the vote. But if we get to a referendum, it's still a symptom that there's something wrong. So I would hope that if we have a referendum, but it doesn't get the majority, that Ottawa and maybe the other provinces will have a wake up call and try and fix Confederation. I still don't think it can be fixed because there's been those attempts. We had Meech Lake and we had other accords, Charlottetown Accord, and the playing field is not even, and then the East is getting a huge advantage, and they don't want to open that constitutional accord, and they don't want to eliminate the equalization formula. They don't want to give Ottawa doesn't want to give powers back to the provinces. So, short answer, it will send a message. But actually, the interesting thing is that I think before the end of the year, Alberta will probably have a referendum, and Quebec will elect a separatist government again. The PQ is going to get elected in Quebec, so maybe there will be a huge wake up call for the country, and maybe we will sit down and have a constitutional debate, but I'm not hopeful.
Troy, you want to go ahead and respond?
I think when this fails, that there'll be...
You notice he said, when this fails, it's like totally negative towards the whole thing. It's not if it fails, it's when this fails. In other words, there's no chance of independence absolutely happening in his mind anyways. So yeah, so you can imagine the rest of his comment.
A celebration for Canadians to some degree, and certainly with our proud brothers and sisters in Alberta that want to stay in Canada. And hopefully there's no truly negative things, any sort of...
Hang on. Everything you've said about independence has been negative so far. It's like name calling and the whole works there, the bullshit, the horse shit. It's all name calling.
Strong revolts or anything like that with the separatists that want to separate, and then their dreams get squashed and that sort of thing. And then I think it's very important, and as Marty brought up, the flames that are burning with separatism or separating from Canada still alive in Quebec. I think it's very important that we live in a time right now that is, in this hemisphere, the most turmoil exists now since World War II. And I think it's very important that Canada takes steps and takes measures, because we cannot be a strong, stable...
But you know why that has happened? It's because Ottawa has been inactive. Ottawa has not listened to Alberta at all. Ottawa has not tried to work with Alberta with anything. And that's why it has come to this. That's why this is happening. Yeah, if it doesn't happen, we sure as hell better get more from Ottawa. We better get, I say cancel those equalization payments completely. Let Alberta keep the money that we generate within our own province to help people within our own province. And if you live in some other province, start building widgets or start doing something that will put some money into your pocket. Do something useful instead of sucking the tit off of Alberta.
Nation until the option for provinces to leave is extinguished and changed. And I think the laws need to be addressed. We have all kinds in this day and age of disinformation. We have foreign entities that are playing major roles in influencing thought, creating all kinds of trouble on social media platforms that are unregulated, where disinformation runs wild. And all.
Oh my God. Yeah, this is where Carney wants to shut down channels like mine so that we won't be able to talk about stuff like this. That's what he's talking about. Because I'm spouting out disinformation. Meanwhile, him with all of his comments here tonight, what a bunch of disinformation. What a bunch of bullshit. He's the one that's spouting that off, not me. I'm sitting here correcting him the whole time. But you know what? We're tired of it. We're tired of all this bullshit. We're tired of being oppressed, and there's more and more bills coming oppressing more and more free speech in our country, and we're getting sick and tired.
And all the rest of it. We have Putin, a very hostile Russia, Trump, very hostile America, that Canada needs to protect itself, I believe. So I think that the laws need to be rewritten so that it can't happen again. And
oh my
hopefully
God.
Things can move forward where all these different...
The last thing that we need is more laws, more oppression. It's bad enough as it is. We need free speech. We need to get rid of a bunch of laws, get rid of the liberals, get some conservatives into parliament, so that and get rid of this equalization payment bullshit where you're sucking so much money out of our province and that our government has to be running at a deficit.
Distinctive parts of Canada can work together, come together to operate more effectively, more efficiently. And for anyone who is of Marty's ilk, who is truly upset and angry, you can either leave the country or you can get involved at the governmental level within the framework of Canada and try to...
You can't get involved at a governmental level because the people are already there and they're unable to do anything because the liberals have brought in 25% of the population. They're going to vote liberal. And the votes, when you cast your ballot in Ontario, as the votes come across Canada, as the time, changes, the way that Canada is going to be has already been decided by time the people in Eastern Canada and Ontario have voted. So it doesn't matter how we vote in Western Canada. They've got the majority over there, and they've already decided the way Canada is going to go. And that happens to be liberal.
And make change that way.
Marty, go ahead.
Which is what we're doing. We're getting involved within the existing framework. The Constitution, this Clarity Act, and other things say that we're allowed to do what we're doing. So I am getting involved. I know you don't like it, but citizens of Alberta are getting involved. But at the end of the day,
that's right.
I find your comment absolutely incredible. Like, rather than find out why a group of citizens in Alberta or Quebec are unhappy and perhaps addressing their unhappiness and fixing what's wrong with the Constitution, your solution is, let's just tighten it down and let's not let those fuckers get out of here. Let's prevent them from getting pissed off, even though they're pissed off.
And what he said, he's saying, get the hell out of here. Get out of here. If you don't like it, just get out of here. Move out of Canada. Move somewhere else. That's what he said. That's what Troy Westwood just said.
Off, let's prevent them from voicing their opinion, and if they're really pissed off, they can just get the hell out. Like, that is such a draconian way to think about the problem. Like, you've literally not asked anybody why we're pissed off. You're just like, you're pissed off, but you shouldn't be pissed off, and I'm not going to allow you to be pissed off. You were literally the kind of guy that if your neighbors who've been married for 20 years and the wife or the husband said, I'm fed up, I'm being abused, I want out of this relationship, you'd be like, nope, you can't get out because the law doesn't allow it. That's what you would do. You would make the laws. You need a different analogy. Repeal the divorce.
He just said we have to make more laws to tighten things up to make sure that guys like you don't try and separate again.
Laws in this country. That's interesting. That's fascinating. And in a typical liberal, you do not like. Your solution is more force and take away the. I mean, you even said it. You're pissed off that we're selfish. You call us selfish, and you call us treasonous,
spoiled,
and
spoiled, not treasonous.
Spoiled, sure, spoiled, and so we're spoiled.
Brats.
And your answer to us being perceived as spoiled is, I'm just gonna make it impossible for you to voice your concern. Wow, that's right. That's interesting. No, but I mean, thanks for coming up.
Your concern and battling to leave the nation are two totally different
things.
We've
been voicing our concern for 100 years.
Yeah. Exactly. Alberta has been complaining forever about getting a raw deal in Confederation, and Ottawa has done nothing about it. With 5 million people here, we have very few MPs, members of Parliament, in Ottawa, compared to little provinces out in the West Coast, or the East Coast, like Nova Scotia, PEI, and a bunch of other places there that have very little population, but they've got lots of MPs. Like, it's disproportionate. That whole thing was supposed to be changed with Trudeau. Trudeau talked about that, about changing the number of MPs that are out west here. But you know what? In order to stay in power, he never did make any changes on that.
This hat
But
here,
taking
it
it to a
says
level-
1905. We've been voicing our concerns since 1905, but if you look at the map of Canada, there's this little triangle in the corner. We have by the way, we have a disproportionate amount of seats. We're not represented statistically. We are disproportionately represented. We got a bum deal. We have 34 seats in the House of Commons, whereas Maritimes have like 34, but we have 3 times the population. So even if it was proportionate, you draw a little triangle of Montreal, Toronto, and Ottawa. There's 25 million people in there. There's 30 million people out east, and they keep voting for things that they care about, and they push them on the rest of us. They don't like guns in Ontario and Quebec. And consequently, I'm not allowed to have guns. They want electric vehicles because they believe in this bullshit net zero, and I'm forced to suffer those consequences. So the whole country is messed up, and we've been fighting.
Good point. Carney comes up with this thing, giving you, okay, it's like this. You're going to take my taxpayer money and you're going to give it to somebody that wants an electric vehicle and give $5,000 to him to offset his purchase price. So you're going to take my taxpayer money and give it to somebody that wants an electric vehicle. I don't want an electric vehicle, and I don't want my money being used to subsidize somebody else buying an electric vehicle. If somebody else wants to buy an electric vehicle, let them. If they want a gas vehicle, let them. But you're oppressing me by taking money out of my pocket in order to subsidize somebody else that is a wealthy person. If you can afford a brand new car, you're a wealthy person. You're not poor. So why are you giving my tax money, who myself, I buy used vehicles all the time. I don't even buy a brand new car. I'm driving an old truck, and I'm happy. And if I buy another vehicle, it won't be a brand new electric vehicle. That's for people that have a lot of money, a lot of disposable income, and they don't need the $5,000 rebate. But you're doing it just because of your net zero bullshit, because you think you're going to save the planet. So you're going to take money out of my pocket to give it to some other dude that has more than enough money to buy his electric vehicle in order to try and save the planet. Shame on you.
Since 1905 to get out. The separatist movement is not new. Canadians have been ignoring us, and finally, this one is taking root, and we're really, really pissed off. And so you guys are going to have to deal with the consequences, and people who know that it's bad for Canada because it will break up Canada. But I didn't break up Canada. You guys did by constantly abusing us.
You know, the consequences are probably going to go out like a little burning brush fire when you guys end up with 30% of the vote. Now, 1905, what the ironic thing here, Marty, is in 1905,
the polls are showing 41% of the vote right now. So you see how he's downplaying the poll to 30%, you know, just to make it look like, oh, you guys aren't going to win. You're just going to, you know, go away with your tail in between your legs when you don't win. And that's just like the media too. The mainstream media also downplays. They pick the lowest poll they can find, and then they quote those numbers.
The same way that you view going up to Tim's and Indian individuals are helping you, a French Canadian going to Alberta in 1905 probably wouldn't have been embraced so much there. Like there's a whole, I noticed when you talk about this, you're damn right. You know damn well that's right. If a French individual strolled into Alberta in 1905, they would have the exact same views as you do of the Indian helping you attend.
No, you could say that about maybe the Indians were concerned about the English and the French coming, but the English weren't concerned about the French coming because they both came at the same time. And by the way, there's a mountain in Jasper Park called Mount Boulanger, which is one of my ancestors, and he was a guide in this country in 1822. So we've been here a long time, side by side with the natives, and we had a pretty strong relationship. So anyways, that's a different story, but yeah. Hey, Troy, kudos. Thanks for coming out, man. I mean, I was hoping you would do a sales pitch on why we should stay, but now I see that you really, you really don't want us to leave.
Yeah, there is no sales pitch on why we should stay, because Canada and Carney haven't done anything in the last year. Hearing that Alberta wants to separate and that there's this plebiscite coming, he hasn't done anything to make us want to stay, to help us to stay, to like, what kind of what's the incentive to stay in Canada? There is no incentive. You're taking money from us and you're not giving us any results in return. And we're tired of it. There's no reason for us to stay. And that's it. It's over.
leave, but you don't want to listen to us of why we're concerned, and you want to force us to stay, which is a very interesting concept. It's that doesn't seem very democratic to me. But
Troy, we'll give you 30 seconds.
Yeah. In fact, they want to put more laws in to shut us up so that we can't even talk about in independence anymore. That's what they want to do. Pretty soon, if we try and, if Carney puts in his next law, it'll be, I talk about independence, I'll be going to jail.
To respond, and then we'll close it off for the evening.
I'm all ears for listening to discontent of what right now is a super minority in Alberta of individuals, mostly white men. From what we're seeing, there's this group of individuals that support Donald Trump, that are really unhappy with the immigration coming in, that are Christian by nature, and there's some level of discontent.
Hang on. He's making it sound like if you're a Christian, it's terrible. It's bad. It's a bad thing. Like, so what if people are Christian by nature? So what? Why does he even bring something like that up? It's he's not a Christian? He must not be a Christian to say something like that. And whether you're a Christian or not, that's irrelevant. Whether you're a so-called white national, that's irrelevant. Marty said he had people of all color, all diverse of backgrounds, all religions coming up and signing the petition. But yet Troy seems to think that it's just a bunch of white nationalists. That's a way that the left smears campaigns. That's exactly what they do.
Contentment, anger there, and I struggle to understand the level of anger at what it is. But hey, man, we see it in the States right now as well. So it's a global thing a little bit right now. So I struggle to understand it, but I'm all ears. I hope that wherever this is going, that Alberta ends up staying, and I hope that all those that are truly discontent and unhappy in Alberta that there could be ways found so that ultimately all those individuals and their families and children, generations to come, can grow up as proud Canadians.
Sorry, but it's not going to happen. Like, it wouldn't be happening right now if everybody was happy. But guess what? We're not happy. And you can't seem to come up with any reasons why we should stay. All you can do is just call us names and try and smear the whole campaign. And that's it.
Gentlemen, thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciate both of you coming out and sharing your perspective, and also a huge thank to James, who really pulled this all together on the technical side of things. So hopefully we can do this again sometime soon. Thanks, everyone. Have a great evening.
Thank you, James. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, sounds good. So that's it for the whole thing. Thank you very much for watching. And of course, I got to say my comments there, and we had people coming in and out of the rooms. We were running the vertical and the horizontal. We're on X and we're on Facebook. Thanks a lot, everyone, on whichever platform that you are watching. And we will see you next time. Take care.
Ladies and gentlemen, Alberta's pride. Hey, ho, hey, ha, 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 that's right.
Alberta's Pride. Pride TV, good to see you. Spin City. Everybody else, thanks a lot for joining us. Thanks a lot for the super chats. Big thumbs up. Thanks for supporting the streams. Let's go. Alberta for the win.
Skies. He's calling out the haters with truth in his lines, talking about the world from the left to the right. Tommy's got the mic, keeping it tight. Tommy Temper, you're a great guy. Battling trolls with a spark in your eye. Conspiracy theories, politics and fun. Streaming from the Rockies, you're second to none. Lake House vibes where the mountains meet the stream. He's dodging all the trolls like a champion dream. From Alberta's heart, he's lighting up the night. Tommy Temper's truth is his guiding light. With a wink and a grin, he's taking on the fight. Spilling all the tea in the YouTube live. From the hot tub to the Rockies, he's living it free. Tommy Temper's the streamer we all want to see. Oh, Tommy Temper, you're a great guy. Battling trolls.
Later, Big D. Thanks a lot for joining us.
Conspiracy theories,
Come along for the ride.
She's streaming Tommy Temper.
Okay, everybody in there, mods in the chat, thanks a lot. And we'll see you later. I might do a stream later. You never know. But share the stream out and give us a thumbs up. And take care.